Hello, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. We are so excited for our third Hack Your Tech Career Summit. My name is Isadora. I am the program manager at the European Leadership University, and I'm going to be hosting the summit today and tomorrow. The summit is co-organized by AI Agents and European Leadership University, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about both. AI Agents is a career community for data science and machine learning engineers. You can use their websites to find jobs, events, course and career related contacts like coding tutorials or interview tips and tricks. And ELU is the university offering flexible undergraduate and master's degrees programs in tech. We are competency based and we focus on portfolio building and mentoring by experts from the field to train our students to be job ready. You can check the website to learn more about the programs and offers. And you can find more about AI agents and ELU if you visit the expo section here in the summit. So, in the summit, you'll be talking about different career pathways in tech and how to get started in tech. We have many experts joining us today and tomorrow to share their wisdoms and insights, so we will for sure learn a lot. We're excited to have 800 plus registrants and from 330 plus countries. And we would also like to make the summit interactive. So please share your comments and ideas from the chat screen. And I'm curious to know where everyone is joining from. So please share your location, country in the chat. And also please ask questions to the speakers by using the comments section. And we'll try to answer it live at the end of each of the sessions. There will be no breaks in our programs, but you can take a break anytime and join us back whenever you can. And so let's go ahead and introduce you to our first speaker. It's Max Giusti from Techie Warden. Techie Warden is an initiative in the Netherlands that helps people find the right pathway tech through studies or work. He will be talking about different career paths and their perspective in tech. So welcome, Max.
And hi, everyone from around the world. Yeah, just like Isadora said, my name is Max Joosten. I am from Techie Warden, which is part of Tech Grounds, and we do research on IT jobs in the Netherlands. And I'm going to talk about the careers perspectives in IT and tech, and especially on the Dutch job market, but it's also kind of applicable to the worldwide job market in IT, and also what kind of perspective there is in these different career paths that there are in tech and IT. So I have some slides with me I wanted to share with you. And if these are coming up, I will just start my talk. So yeah, in Techie Warden, we do research on IT jobs, what kind of characteristics they have, what kind of skill level you need, and also find a way to make it easier for people to find the IT job, because there is a big gap between the ITs, which I will touch on later on in my talk. And it's part of Tech Grounds Group, which also gives education courses, trainings to people who want to become a data scientist, a software developer, front-end developer, digital designer, and all those different things. To give you a bit of information about what we do and why we do it, I want to touch on our vision, mission, and strategy, because we're not that very known. So we want to solve as mission the mismatch on the IT job market through the activation of hidden talent. A lot of people that maybe are touching on IT and tech don't really know what they're capable of doing in the tech space, especially tech work, and what is possible. And we want to activate those hidden talents. Our vision is that there is no shortage of IT personnel, although there officially is, but we need to look different on the view. We need to have a different view on talent, and to do those both kind of things, we want to have a strategy that is looking earlier, different, and further for talent. together with partners. So we will make everyone the tech space for everyone. That is also why we are a partner of AI Agents and European Leadership University. And first of all, to start off, the perspectives are very good, which maybe a lot of you already know because you are in tech, studying some IT related bachelor's or master's, already are working at a tech company, maybe already are working in the education space in IT and tech. So we all know how booming business is, but also that there are a lot of challenges with what will need to be addressed with this intense growth of tech giants and tech companies. So I want to start off with some first principles that I found during my last 2 years of research in especially the Dutch IT job market, to be specific. So maybe some things will differ in other countries like the UK or in Asia or in the United States or in South America. Or in Africa, of course, which is a big growing continent with IT and tech specialists. But yeah, we are in amidst the fourth industrial revolution, which a lot of people may know. So, what is it? Well, at first we had the information revolution, and now we're getting into the connectivity revolution, where everybody will be having access to internets in maybe 5 to 10 years, and the world will be interconnected even more through internets and yeah, the tech space. And that brings to the conclusion that everybody will have an internet connection and everybody will be able to work around the world with this internet connection for different companies. Besides that, there is a big gap at the moment between open positions and the educated workforce. This is a thing that needs to be addressed, and that's also why I'm so positively inspired by all those people like you who are studying something in IT and tech, because it's very needed. And I will also touch on some key numbers and facts about this gap. And also we'll be touching on the reskilling and upskilling of yourself, because we at Techie Warders say IT people are lifelong learners. There are people in IT who maybe are networking for 30 years for a company, and then their knowledge is becoming too old because these technologies grow and adapt and evolve further. So amidst this fourth industrial revolution, there are a lot of trends, which they call at the World Economic Forum call Industry 4.0. So yeah, you can see them here, like big data, autonomous robots, simulations, system integration, industrial Internet of Things, cybersecurity, cloud, and additive manufacturing. Also, which is a big thing right now, augmented reality. And all these industries are growing rapidly, and they're also creating new IT jobs, which people normally forget because there are constantly evolving new jobs in the IT space. It's also in full swing because this is from Salesforce, a partner from us, who said, yeah, these are like the different environments and spaces that are already evolving and will be transforming in the next couple of years, because a lot of work that has been done is being done right now for future work in IT and tech, and everything will complement each other, because if there is a data center there can be done more data science for those and those companies because they have the possibilities to do those things. And you will have that with a lot of these different industries in IT and tech. To touch on the gap, to give you an example, at the moment there are 20,000 active open IT positions in the Netherlands, from all different domains and from all different IT jobs. Yeah, these aren't quickly; those will not be filled that quickly. So there has to be a very active stance to people to start educating themselves, or people, as we already said, called hidden talent, who are becoming IT workers. The total amount of IT jobs will grow up to 6% in last year, and it will grow even further next year. precise numbers aren't yet concluded. But this will also mean that we will have a different blue collar worker, to say so, of the future. Um, People will be administrating these systems that are developed. You have a lot of CRM systems which are being rolled out to middle and small companies, where there are a lot of like entry level jobs. Um, and these will need to be filled as well. And there are a lot of people who miss their skills to do that work, but we can change that. And the reason that is being missed is because of the middle school curriculum, especially the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, where technology was a little bit of a thing that wasn't taken seriously, or at least in the Netherlands, for some middle school and small schools, which is being proactively improved. But that means that the whole generation misses some basic coding or binary thinking to fill those jobs. So those will need to be addressed. And also there is an over allocation of students in other fields, because they are going to do law or business administration in huge loads, while the real job growth is in IT. Some other key numbers and facts is that the artificial intelligence will make up 21.1% of world GDP by 2030. Well, these are all estimates, so they can differ, but it is an indication that these new technologies and fields in IT and tech will make up a large portion of what we will be producing as a world and as nations and countries. And 50% of all employees will need reskilling by 2025. Um, because we are adapting to this hybrid work environment. Some companies are asking everybody to come back to the office, but a lot of companies are adapting this hybrid work environment where you go to the office 2-3 days a week, and for the rest you will work from home. This means that you will need to know how to use all these digital tools like Zoom and Microsoft Teams, etc. But you will also need to know how to work from home. Like some companies still are very technology based, so they will do a lot of things by pen and paper. But in the end, all companies will go digitally in the digitization that we are in, and those people will need reskilling as well. Besides that, you have here are some numbers about countries. Like France needs 80,000 more IT and electronics workers than available, and the US has 250,000 fewer data scientists than is currently needed. So there's a huge gap between what is available and what is needed. And the digital skills of people fill a lot of these jobs. So that gives you guys a good chance because the perspectives are very good. But besides that, you have to take the other things like professionalization, um, your power skills, as I would call them, soft skills, which are becoming power skills, will need to be on point. And that's where I will be coming to reskilling and upskilling, because a lot of people maybe already did a bachelor's or a master's in a different field, but they want to re-educate themselves to IT or tech. And then there are a lot of things that will help them to become their way. The effects on participants of a lot of upskilling and reskilling will become they will become more self-confident. They will become high capacity. They will understand a higher learning capacity because of all these new skills they will be learning. And besides, they will need to also master their soft skills because they maybe come from a different sector or branch. Maybe you were in engineering, and you trained a lot of soft skills in teamwork together, and then you went on into IT, and those skills are very needed in IT companies and in IT jobs as well. And the other effect is that you will gain more autonomy because you can switch careers more easily in IT than in other fields, because you are so needed. Companies are very greedy of taking other people's employees to them with very good pay or with other perks that you could get. Um, so there are a lot of things that you could do in going further in your career skills. Another way to also reskill and upskill are, or what we advise people that come to us, is that there are different ways of reskilling and upskilling. You can do an education, of course, a bachelor's or a master's. Those take on average a longer time than other certifications, like especially certifications through websites like Coursera, Udemy, Udacity, EDX, which are websites where you can get an ITIL certification for IT management, or just to grab something else, a CEH certification to become certified ethical hacker. Um, and these are also applicable to other things like CRM systems. These companies are building their whole own education system. If you want to work in cloud, or you want to become a cloud consultant, you can go to courses and certifications from Amazon itself. Just to touch on Amazon, you also have this for Microsoft Azure, the second biggest cloud provider. And you can just train yourself in these courses and certifications from course to course, and you can grow on the ladder, as to so to speak. And you can reskill yourself in that way, via that way, internally, through company courses of themselves. Besides these certifications, there are also a lot of online courses which are given, I think, especially Udemy, where you can learn all kinds of different skills, but very specific. So you will go in on a certain topic on front-end development, or a certain topic of UX design, or search engine optimization, the marketing side. Um, and besides self-study, everything is findable online. That's the thing I've noticed about IT information. If you go on GitHub, or other things, you can YouTube tutorial by a guy, you can train yourself these with extra skills to the thing that you want to go to do. And to talk about that, it's very important to know what you want to do, because the orientation is is especially very important if you want to pursue a career in IT and tech. Because if you have a clear path where you want to go, then you can choose these things. Okay, I want to go that way, therefore I need maybe this education or a combination of these certificates. And besides that, I need a bit of skills in maybe some other thing like cloud computing, or there could be some totally different thing in IT. Um, Besides knowing what you want to do and your path, you also need to have good soft skills. Soft skills are becoming more and more important, especially because computers can do hard skills more easier and quicker than humans. So these hard skills will be automized more and more in the future. And that means that soft skills will become more and more important in the future. There are some ways to train soft skills, but it will especially work best if you train it through practice. So at work, or maybe when you're meeting up with friends, there are all kinds of situations to train your soft skills, and there are also some courses online which provide soft skills courses. And your company, if you're already working at a company, you can always upskill yourself. Well, another thing that we did was look at all these different IT jobs. So now we know what the perspectives are, what kind of ways there are to skill to those different IT jobs. But all these IT jobs can be layered under certain IT profiles. So what we have seen is that there are data analysts, developers, growth hackers, tech supporters, and digital designers. And these different IT profiles can be found also on our website, but I will maybe share it on another time. But there we will go in what kind of characteristics those different profiles have. So for certain, a data analyst is more not very intensively working in teams, but is more analyzing data from the back, while maybe a digital designer or a tech supporter is more interconnected in a team and communicating more. So there are these small differences between the IT profiles, and these IT profiles, will be applicable on like all IT jobs that there are. So now that we know what kind of profiles there are, how many IT domains do exist at the moment, and we came to the conclusion that there are at least 10 IT domains at the moment. So digital design and UX design, growth hacking and digital marketing, IT strategy and management, customer relationship management, deployment, so CRM deployment, storage data and data intelligence, information security, DevOps and cloud technology, software development, tech support, and system support, and network technology and engineering. And there are some combinations, and those are we have made those because they are very similar or working very intensively together. And some people always ask, "Oh, why is DevOps with cloud?" Because they don't have intermediate interactions. But cloud and DevOps are also working on the same binary thinking way. So they are coupled in that way. There are a lot of things. This is just a moment or a moment capture of right now. There are like future domains, which could be sustainability, blockchain, Internet of Things, and Web 3.0, because this is growing and growing. Like growth hacking wasn't even a thing until 5 years ago. 10 years ago, there was no growth hacking in the IT space, and now every company, small, big, having a growth hacker in their team. And so you see that all these jobs are evolving all the time. And between all these different domains, there are in total 207 IT jobs in the Netherlands. That could differ from your country, of course, because like in the US, we have some more technically focused IT jobs as well, which are a little bit more on the intensity end of things. But you can differ. All these different jobs are in entry-level jobs. So here you have experience from 0 to 1 year. Starting jobs, which are maybe almost always have like a half to 2 years experience. Mid-level jobs, which differ between 2 or 6 years of experience, and jobs with long IT experience, mostly 5 to 10 years. And those will be, especially for people who are very long in their domain, know everything, and will be getting into management positions on those different topics or departments. So yeah, you can maybe sometimes, if you already have a bachelor's or under masters, you can start at a starting job or a mid-level job. If you are working on a bachelor's, you can maybe try to find entry-level jobs with 0 to 1 experience, because then you already are getting experience at a company, maybe in not in the function that you would like to have, but you already have a relationship with the company at first. Secondly, you know the people, and if you are further educating yourself, you can get into another position more quickly. And these domains are going to be applicable across all sectors. So what I always use as a example is that the most old economy companies, like a metal farmer who crushes cars for metal, will also use a CRM system nowadays, just to have everything in their computer and very easy to find. And then there will become there will come a CRM administrator 2 or 3 times a month. So even those companies are using some of these domains. But especially, I mean, every small and big company are starting to apply all these different domains in their work way of working. So here are a couple examples that are very trending right now, but there will be especially on the way of data science and autonomy will be changing a lot of things, also with technology growth. Um, so yeah, optimization, healthcare, drivability, transportation, supply chain things that are being a problem right now in the world, which could be solved in the future. But even in sports clubs, they are using data science to analyze teams, and also augmented reality in stores, and especially, of course, this whole crypto trend thing, which are disrupting finance. And all these, yeah, different things come back to some focus points at the moment, which is the supply chain disruption. So there are a lot of companies who want to either way help solve that problem, but also a lot of people who want to research on those problems. And besides the supply chain disruption, everybody's working from home now. We'll be returning to office hopefully very soon, everybody in the world. At least we are soon in the Netherlands. But there will be a lot of companies who will use a hybrid solution from working at home. And all the economy sectors are being pushed to digitization because they're losing at the moment. And if they don't digitize soon enough, they will be going into bankruptcy or will be taken over by companies who have been applying digitization in their company. Um, Also, data-driven decision making through the use of the cloud. Um, um, so yeah, that's also very important. Excuse me, I was just looking in at the questions already, but let's finish my talk first. Um, Also very important, where to start. Um, we see that there are a lot of different companies, of course, where you could start small, medium, or big companies. And everybody used to have like this standard view of going from small to medium to bigger companies. But you could also start at a big corporation if you want that. But if it's not possible because you can get through the selection of resumes, then maybe it would be a more easier or a better way to just start at a startup with like 8 or 10 people. What are the pluses of starting at a startup? Well, you could really make your own thing, and later on in your career, you could show, look, I worked at that startup and I made this whole application work, or I made this design or user experience way or marketing way of working at that small company. So you will always take that with you. The same is with middle companies. Those aren't too big to fall under a technocracy, but there are still ways to like apply your own things. And if you just want to learn like a really deep dive into the technology side, you could also always go to corporation if they will let you in through applying selections, because they have, of course, the newest and the latest big technology, where you will go through an intense training and learn real skills for later on to maybe go from a corporation to starting your own startup. So there are different ways, and would press you on the heart with the way. Don't think as going from small, medium to big, or medium to big, but you could go any way around throughout your whole career, especially in tech. So besides the job and the perspectives, I would also want to touch on very briefly on trends and emerging roles. So this is a current current IT job market of the Netherlands. This was taken from it into a day. So yeah, all these different domains have these somewhere around these active uh, um, uh, positions open and we took this from Indeed, which is a job website. This is for digital design, UX design, IT strategy and management, and CRM. And the CRM is growing very rapidly. And here are the most growing domains. So data and data intelligence, information security, and DevOps and cloud technology. And there are also a lot of technology trends behind this growth, because as you can see, every job market is growing. But that is the thing, if like there are more clouds, there's more cloud technology, there will be more data science possible because there's more storage. But besides that, if there's more data science, there will be need to be more security. So there are creating more synergy between each other. And those technologies trends that are thriving these different domains with bigger and bigger um, open position numbers are like artificial intelligence, machine learning, also deep learning, cybersecurity, uh, IoT, Internet of Things, edge computing, especially Web3, which is the owning of the internet instead of using the internet, process optimization, cloud, robotics, blockchain, and there are some other down there, cloud computing. Um, I will go further because I want to go into your questions as well. So how will these technologies escape around the world? CRM is getting very big. As I said, small and medium companies are able to buy a CRM system, whereas in the 1990s you would have paid thousands and thousands of dollars or euros, whatever, to get a CRM system. And now every small and medium company is able to adapt or use a CRM system, which is used the same with cloud. So every small and medium company, Amazon learned from those mistakes early on. Every small and big, and Microsoft Azure as well. But all those small and big companies can go almost free, starting their cloud experience for free, and then later on there will be, of course, paying. But that makes all these companies, or these companies are creating more and more of those IT jobs. Of course, 5G, which has been rolled out in a lot of parts, but not in every part of the world. But it will take some time until all technology, all consumer products also will be able to use those 5G networks. But that will instantly give more boost to certain IT work, IT jobs, maybe in the creative space. I don't know yet. Also, of course, the Internet of Things. Every internet or machine will be having chips, even though there is a chip shortage at the moment. But they are working on that very hard. So if all these different machines have these chips, there will be instantly more jobs for a whole new domain. Besides Internet of Things, also blockchain. So, of course, people know Bitcoin, but there are a lot of different ways to apply blockchain in voting, payment and transferring, healthcare, energy sector as well, digital IDs. And now with the whole NFT thing, you can have it also in music or in art, but also in law enforcement. So there are a lot of different applications for blockchain. So if you're interested in blockchain, there is definitely a future, even though some people are very pessimistic about it. And I want to talk on some emerging roles as well. I made a difference between developing and engineering roles. So these are like very new roles which are growing and growing in numbers. And these roles are probably for people who have more experience or who have a lot of IT skills already. So if you maybe already want to know for yourself, with going back to your path to an IT job, um, know what you want to become and then go online and find out how to become maybe artificial intelligence specialist or network architect, which will take some years. I know that from earlier talks I had with people. So if you want to know what you've become, then you can constantly stoically work to those different roles. And there are also a couple of support roles, like administrator jobs, but also IT support jobs, which have a bit lower of entry point. And those are the different emerging roles. So maybe you can check out what you like yourself and then go further. And then I want to thank you for your time. And I think we have 6 minutes left to answer some of your questions, which I'm eager to do. So I will go to the chat now and check some of these questions out. I got a question by Reese Roelofse. Is it possible to live here in South Africa and work for someone in America or Europe if I'm pursuing a job in programming slash tech? Um, Good question. And I think I can give not a very definitive answer, but the thing is that that is happening at the moment. So there's a lot of, because of the shortage and gap, there's a lot of outsourcing between companies and government as well. So you can maybe find an outsourcing company in South Africa, which is outsourcing IT people to companies in Europe or in America. And I think it's also possible with some companies to apply and work from South Africa, but that is very early. So that will become more and more normal in the future, but we're still very early on with that trend of working at home and working in another continent for another company. I know myself, some of my friends will work in IT, sometimes go on 3 months vacations to another continent to work there and still do their work for companies in the Netherlands. So that is possible. So we'll see how that will roll out in the future. I see here a question from Hansika Kolomboge. Dona, does product management fall under IT strategy and management? No, product management is something that will eventually the management of the product will fall under IT strategy and management, but product development will be falling under other certain domains. So maybe if you're working on a new application, that all these domains very intertwine work together. So maybe someone from IT strategy and management will contact someone from software development or the lead in software development and say, okay, we need these improvements, and then the people in software development will improve the products or the application. So they're more intertwined. I have a question from Franklin. Hi, Max. Can you talk more about switching between the various domains? For expats looking to work in the Netherlands, do you have any idea how to go about that? Yes, there. I have to say it isn't that easy as I maybe have portrayed it, because you still need to reskill yourself in these new environments. But it's still possible, and especially the use of certifications, and maybe a course through one of these platforms that I told about. Uda City is a very good one, but also, of course, AI agents and European Leadership University will give those trainings as well. So if you reskill through short certifications of half a year or a year, then you can really reskill yourself to a different domain. But you already have to have a background in some domain and already maybe have some skills or possible appliances of things that you have done in the past. So it's not possible. I got a question from Sebnem, which is interesting. So a lot of programs in tech are being provided online, even complete master's degrees by various universities globally on Coursera, edX. How would you recommend someone who is completing such a program with no previous experience in a field to proceed forward, getting to a tech company? And that's actually one thing: interning, and also building a portfolio and a profile. So if you are a front-end developer or a back-end developer or maybe a digital designer, besides doing your course, also start making your own designs, start building your own portfolio. So when you come to this company, maybe they will not immediately hire you, but you will be able to show the skills that you have. If they are very exquisite and they are very interested in hiring you, they will. Maybe not, and then you could try to intern. I know a lot of people who intern a lot. Some people intern for a couple of years, but at multiple companies before they were able to start their dream job. So interning and also building a portfolio. Thank you for your question. let's see. What exactly is CRM? As I told, customer relationship management. So these are systems and applications where companies can use those systems to have all points of contact with people that use their product or system to know when they should send an email or should call them back. Okay, I got a question from Barbara. How would a PhD in a science subject, physics, bioinformatics, be considered by a company? How does one prove their IT skills from a non-strictly IT degree? That's a very good one, because in other parts or um, other fields and sectors, it's very easy to go from physics to finance, or from bioinformatics to something in healthcare. And that's different with IT, because IT is there really another field, and the thinking way or the binary thinking is not very the same as with some other fields. But with a PhD, you of course show very excellent knowledge. So it should be possible to improve IT skills or prove IT skills through going through these courses online. And it's always just the new skills that you've learned. So it will not instantly prove IT skills from a non strictly IT degree, but it will be able if you retrain yourself and upskill yourself. Got a lot of questions, so I'm just going to find one more because there is another very eager to talk to you. Other speaker, very eager to talk to you. This is maybe an interesting one. What is companies' approach to people who have career shifts to IT after 40 or 50 years of older age? This is a very intriguing group, because a lot of people have been outsourced automized by autonomous automation. So here in the Netherlands, we have supermarket personnel which are being displaced by machines, where you can pay with your own way, so you don't need a cashier. And these people are 40 or 50, and they need to reskill. So a lot of them aren't going to reskill themselves into data science or artificial intelligence in 5 years until they reach retirement age. So they should focus on more entry-level jobs. So maybe tech support or other jobs at the entry level. And thank you for your questions.
Next speaker, questions and answer. Name is Natalia, and them economic about skills future. Welcome, Natalia.
I feel like I'm the next one. Hello, everyone. I think we're expecting Isadora to be joining us as well before I start talking.
Nice you.
Hi. Hello. Now we hear you well. Hi.
Okay, good. I'm glad. Okay, so for the first question, welcome, first of all. So we are doing an event on tech careers. And so why would aspiring tech professionals consider and develop these new skills for the future?
Yeah, I think I have a lack of speaking after Max, and because he told you a lot, I think, about the tech skills and transitions and different jobs. I think in the first place, the tech is hotter than hot. So we're living in a strange time, and the shortages in the tech industry are so big that demand is so huge that having a tech skills is sort of at least what I see in the Netherlands. Having tech skills and being able to do, for example, programming of data analysis is a golden ticket on the labor market. We have tons of vacancies coming every day online. And you see that the war on talent and what companies are saying is just incredible. So if you want a guaranteed job, at least for the coming time, tech skills and tech jobs are the ways to go. But I think we need to talk not only about technology is a tool. Tool is a tool. Is how it's what you do. It's important also to talk about other skills and why do you want a tech job. I am again alone, so I assume Isadora will be joining again with our.
So what are the emerging skills that we were talking about?
Yeah, I think we're talking maybe not about emerging, lots of skills. I want to say that I will not be talking today about the tech skills. I'm not an expert in this. They're fantastic and they're important, but there are many, many other skills you need to have or you want to have if you want a tech career. So I want to talk about two types of skills, and they're not as much emerging. So when you hear them, you think, yeah, they've been here for years and years and years. They're just getting a different context. And there are two types of skills which are very important, and those are personal skills. And it comes to I can feed you with words as flexibility, communication, resilience, all these things, but it comes to ability to work with people, and ability to, for example, manage your time and attention. I always say that you can be a fantastic programmer, but if you're burnt out at sitting at home, you have nothing on this skill. So if you don't know how to manage your time, attention, and energy, it doesn't really matter how great are your programming skills. So there are lots of those kind of skills. Or another skill, which I think is, it's not emerging, but it's actual, is I call it career hacking. Is like, but if we're supposed to change around 7 careers, not jobs, but careers in a lifetime, then you need to have a skill to be able to figure out, but what am I doing next? Okay, I heard someone saying, hey, I have PhD in, I don't know, biology, and now I want a tech career. This is a big career switch, but how do you figure out what do you want, who you are, and what do you want to be? So this kind of personal development of number of personal skills is very, very important for any tech career, because it's, you don't want to be just instrumental writing code. I mean, there's a reason why you're choosing tech career. And the second type of skills is contextual skills. And that's, I think, what Max was partly talking about, is being able to know the industry or other industry, because technology is now not working alone. It's tech and health, tech and retail, tech and biochemistry. It's those contextual, being able to understand and navigate in being transdisciplinary and being able to understand the context on what is happening are also the new emerging skills, and they're constantly changing. Like, I don't know, now crypto is hot, and everything what has to do with digital currencies is very hot. But that's a different field than, for example, working in IT and health, where you try to crack data to figure out how to prevent illnesses, or which antibiotics, or how do we get out of this pandemic with much faster. So these two types of skills, so personal and contextual skills. And personal are not new, but they're actual, and contextual are. But
the contextual skills, I think they're not easier, but yes, easier to develop them and learn how to develop them. And so how do you think you can develop the personal skills?
In the context. So I think it's about figuring out what is the question, what is the problem, what is the challenge that you need to deal with. Like I'm always allergic when they say, hey, you need to have a lot of critical thinking for the future. And I go like, yeah, do I have enough critical thinking for the future, or do I have enough leadership skills for the future, or do I need a little bit more, and how much more, and how do you gonna even measure critical skills or leadership. So it's about going there and saying, hey, but okay, to be able to work, I need to be feeling fit, and I need not to have a feeling that I'm working 24/7, don't have a life, and not doing anything else. And if that's the feeling you have, that means you don't have a skill of your time and energy management, and you need to work on it. Otherwise, you're just going to end down in limbo at some point. Or if you don't know what you want to do, then probably you don't have a skill of career hacking, and you need to develop. So it's always working from what is it that you're trying to do and what you're trying to achieve. Or if you are, feel like a weirdo next to the coffee machine with your colleagues and you do want to connect with people, that's maybe something you want to develop, and if it's bothering you. So I'm saying if there's a pain, there is a gain on, and that's where the skill development should come from.
Yeah. And do you have any tips and advices like for them to develop these kind of skills?
Yeah.
Because you think these are the hardest skills to develop.
I think it has to, it's very hard, to say, hey, go follow a course on this.
Yes, exactly.
It's not about following the course. It's really about saying, hey, but where am I? Who am I? How do I, for example, learn? How do I communicate? Where is my pain point? Like, I don't know, I have a feeling constantly that I'm running 24/7. I don't have time to have life except for work. And that's not a healthy feeling. That's not a new feeling. So if I'm uncomfortable enough, I'm going and I'm figuring out how do I get better in my time management skills? How do I get better in allocating my energy better to different things? Or if I'm feeling that, for example, this online learning is not something for me, and lots of people feel like, they're now obliged to take online courses and that's the way to go. And for many people, that's not the way to go. Like, they cannot finish a course. I'm also like, I start the course and I'm thinking, it's just not, this online learning is not working. So that's probably not the way you learn. So what you want to do is figure out how you learn. And maybe for you, it's having a group of individuals you work with together. Maybe you need to go to physical location. But this is like learning to learn skill, and figuring out what it is for you is very important. But I'm always saying develop it from the pain, not from the idea that somebody said that you need to be empathetic or flexible. Yeah, what does it even mean? It's like, if you feel like you need something to get a job, to stay on the job, to get a life, to combine your life with work, then go and develop it. Just come from the pain, come from the problem, come from the challenge you're facing.
Yeah. And you are the talent lead at the Amsterdam Economic Board. So from a company perspective, how do you see that the person has these capabilities, has these skills, has developed these skills?
Well, the actual skills, if people have some skills, you can only develop, or you can see only in the process. I see it's leading the project that in the beginning, or I don't know, we're now hiring for some position on one of our initiatives, and they can say anything. So their CV can say anything. They can have any certification, but it's only when you start working with someone you see, ooh, they don't know how to communicate, or they don't know how to write mail without sounding rude. They don't know how to get things done. They don't know, or they know it, or they're fantastic in leading the people and being a formal leader. So it's evidence-based. That's the only way how you can measure lots of the skills. I think tech skills you can measure by real evidence. So people can show portfolio, people can show what they've done. That's much easier. It's A is B. But in other skills on the workplace, you can be a really best programmer in the world, but the worst person to work with because you're not approachable and not flexible and people will, maybe like less. Now, they will still hire you. There's enough demand, but they will like less to work with you, and you will be not as happy maybe on your workplace and not feel appreciated. But it has to do with your communication style, or that you don't really don't have the right skill to fit in.
There's a question here from Francesco. He says, I think there is a huge lack of technical skills, way more than interpersonal skills. Then, of course, we need to be able to communicate properly, but I see a huge lack of understanding of tech topics, especially by management. And then the developers are paying the price of managers, not understanding the intricacies of IT stuff.
Yeah, I agree. So it's there is the lack of the technical skills is really felt all over the place, but so is the lack of communication skills. So is the lack of being able to be part of interdisciplinary skills. By, for example, we're working with the board a lot on interdisciplinary interdisciplinary challenges. So we have teams from different parts. We have subject experts who are really great on sustainability or talent development, and we have very often technical experts. Like we just developed a platform where you sit with backend and front-end developers, and you need to be able to work together, not speaking very often the same language. And yes, I feel, for example, that I lack lots of technical knowledge speaking to development people, but I see that sometimes they lack lots of knowledge, like just being able to be part of the project. So it's both. And it was very funny, like now maybe it's changing, but I found it very funny, like 5, 6, 7 years ago in the companies where the top management was very experienced. They knew everything, they knew about the structures, but they have no idea about this IT stuff. For them, it's like, it's a jungle. They don't know what to do with that. There is a young generation who's completely savvy. They can write any code, they can do any analysis, but they don't have this management experience. So it's like a bit naive ideas sometimes about the world. And there was such a gap where those two generations try to find each other and not understand. I think it's now changing. I think more and more people, get some kind of tech skills. More and more people get some,
No, yeah, I think nowadays more people are trying to get the soft skill and the technical skills, because we have seen that people just have one or just another. So yeah. Another question from Reese. Creativity is a crucial skill in a field like this. Maybe not for every single job in the field, but showing creativity in a field like this will give you so much advantage. I'm open to correction on this.
Yes and no. Depends on the job. You can't be creative in the places where creativity is not appreciated. So if you're hired by some company to, I don't know, write a code to change the color of this button based on A/B testing, you're hired to change the color of this button of A/B testing and not anything else. So it depends where you end up. So sometimes creativity is not appreciated because you're hired to do certain stuff, and in technology it's more likely to be the case than in many other areas, because it is there's input and there's output. But creativity is an important skill, especially if you're looking for more creative companies, so startups, scale-ups. Oh, there you can go bananas with what you're doing and how you're doing things. Creativity in tech is sometimes it's if you're asked to, for example, analyze the data of how antibiotics work on a certain type of people, there's very little room of creativity. So it's, there's output and input. I see another question. So if you have an experienced management and know how to code, should it be an asset for any company? Absolutely. It depends, of course, on which roles you're applying, but absolutely. And if you have such experience, you can even sometimes go to the roles to skip some roles, because management experience is definitely an asset. If I'm good at multiple skills, should I help the company in multiple fields, or that's not considered important? Depends which skills arise. It depends what you see. It depends what you are hired for what kind of company you are hired, and which how the different companies operate very differently. I see that in startups, it's, you're expected to be multifunctional and be involved in everything, even if your core business is, for example, programming. But if you end up as someone as Google or any other big guys, yeah, then you're coding the color of that button. And yeah, you can say something about the button on the next page, but that whether that's appreciated, I mean, there's for sure room for doing things sometimes, but yeah, it's sometimes as simple as you were hired to do this, write this code, analyze this data.
Sorry, Natalia, my internet went down.
No
The
problem.
problems of doing an online summit. Thank you so much for answering some questions. I loved having you here. And it was a pleasure hearing from you.
Yeah, thank you, and good luck, guys. Yeah,
Thank you. Bye.
bye-bye.
So in our next session, we will talk to a current ELU student. Her name is Aya Alabrash. She's also a front-end engineer at Backbase, and she will talk about skills for software engineers and give tips on how to become a software engineer. So welcome, Aya. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Isadora, for the introduction. So, hello, everyone. And yeah, here is Aya. And as Isadora said, I am a current ELU student, and I have started, to be exact, 1 year ago. And actually, I am here with my talk to give you the reason why I did start at ELU University at the first place. So I will be speaking on some tips on how to become a software engineer. In the first place, there is no standards at all, but it's just some tips that I found it can be help anyone who would like to become a software engineer. I would like to share some slides I have here. So let me just show them. I hope I would be able to. One sec. Yes, it's this one. So I hope now you can see my slides, and I can, and as I said, I would be just giving some tips that I saw it can be good to anyone who is thinking to become a software engineer. So at first, if you really want to become a software engineer, a data analyst, or any field you would like to go deep with, you need to be clear about your goal. Because starting a career at the end, it's not something easy and not something that everyone can just go through. It's about steps you need to go through, some failures, some ups and downs. And what I saw here is you need to be very sure about what do you want, how your journey to be like, and you need to set the whole picture in your mind at the first. So you need to know your goal and you need to know your destination, and by that you will be sure on, like, yes, I want to go in this direction. So as tips, maybe you can ask yourself some questions like, what do I want to be? Do I want to build my career as a software engineer? Do I want to be a team member in an IT company? Or maybe do I want just to start my career and grow and implement my skills and become like senior, principal, lead, whatever you want to be in the future? So by setting your goal, you would know, like, I have this path and this is what I want to continue to become. And after you get the idea, like, for instance, I will give an example for me. Like, now I'm working as front-end developer, and I saw through my journey that yeah, maybe starting a career in software engineering, or that would give me benefits in the future to become more expert in the system, in the architect, in the technology, and all of that stuff. So this is when I thought, yes, I need to earn a degree in computer science, and this is where I registered for ELU. So earning a degree, it will give you the possibility and the resources to learn, to ask your questions, to have other students and also teachers that will help you through the journey. And also it will offer you the background on how you will learn how to design the software, how you will become good in interviews in the future, how to solve problems and learn about the architect and everything. So earning a degree, it will give you the first steps on where to go. And after you already enroll, you need to know some languages to go through and learn about them. And there is actually no common agreement in the software topic that yes, you need to learn this language or this language, and this is what do you need to pick. There is no limitations because we are in a world that have a lot of technologies now. There are a ton of languages that you can start with, but the most important thing is you need to find the thing that you really feel comfortable with. So for instance, like I tried with Python, I see myself like maybe not very good at it. I try something else, and for sure being at also a university will give you the resources, the books, the knowledge, and everything you need forward. Other than that, you need also to supplement your study. So studying from books or having maybe online resources, some projects to work on is not enough for any developer or anyone to want to be an engineer, because usually the books are outdated. And as I mentioned, we are in a world that is full of software and everything is getting updated day by day. So you need to surround yourself by the latest technologies and resources. And here where you can really find the ability of having some tips. Maybe if Stack Overflow is known as a website full of questions and answers. And you can ask your questions there. You can know about languages, about problems that you are facing, things you want to improve on, as well as some other websites I would mention, like Code Wars. If you want to become more expert in solving some problems, having to write some solution, this will help you very much to improve your skills, I would say. Yeah. And if I may go forward, then as a step for all of the engineers and the developers all over the world, you need to read an already implemented code from other experienced developers. And why that? Because we want to read how other people are thinking, and we need to know some new technologies, maybe some new features, ways on best practices on how we can code better. And for instance, like GitHub, you can see there are a lot of programmers that are putting their code with documentation, and the source code is very real, that you can also comment there, have questions, have tips, and you will be for sure improving your skills while doing that. More so, the most important thing in our field is you need to be surrounded by people who are thinking the same. So by that, you need to have a community of other engineers, maybe other students who are sharing you the same ideas, maybe not the same new ones for you. And by that, you will have the guidance, the ways on what to focus on, what to learn. The things are missing from your knowledge, and you will be able to fill all the gaps. Also, this will help you in the future. You will be known more. They will help you to maybe get to the job market easier or faster. And yeah, you will not be alone for sure. Yeah, other than that, I would say build more projects, build your own projects, solve your own problems, see how you can practice more, because there is nothing as practical experience. You can read as much as you can have resources, you can have articles, you can have books, but nothing as coding by yourself, because by doing that, You are enhancing your learning, you are improving your skills, you are finding your own bugs, and you will be able to look for solutions. So by learning how to code and build projects, you will be slowly building up your experience, and that will give you actually the boost to the professional network. Yeah. So other than that, you have already applied for university. You are already learning. You are having your own projects. You are building up your skills, and you are done. What next? You want to go to the job market, and how you will be doing that? You really need to master your pre-interview skills. So what do we need as engineers to get to the job? We need a very good resume, because this is very important when you will be hired. So you need to master this thing, maybe your cover letter as well, and how you are online presence, like your LinkedIn profile. You need to put all of your skills, all of your experience, and because at the end, the HR manager will look at these to at least get the background of your experience and what did you achieve so far. So these things, I would say it's very good to also start building up while you are going through the journey. So while you are learning and while you are searching about how do you want the full picture to be at the end, to like which developer I want to be or which engineer. Next, for sure, you have practice and you have your resume, everything's ready. You need to face a real job interview, because what you are going to learn through these interviews is a lot. Maybe you will find things you didn't get attention before, some questions that you may not have answers for them, because most of the IT companies will start with these interviews. So first, maybe there are some companies will have a screen interview with you, maybe at home, maybe at office, depends now for sure. And then you will be able to go through the questions. They will see how did you build yourself, what skills did you gain, and everything you went through. And it's also for you, succeeding or not. But going through real interview is the best practice to go through the hiring process. At the end, for sure, if you succeed at any interview or more than any, you need to accept the job offer. I mean, nothing also is shame to start at any level, because you need to gain the experience, and the experience, the most you can gain it through these jobs. So start as an intern, then build up your skills, build up your, improve your level, become like junior, intermediate, whatever you want to be in the future. And for sure, choose the job that it will suit you the best. It will suit what you want to be and what you can be comfortable with. For sure, there are more steps or tips you can go through to become the person who you want to be. And this is different from person to person, but actually this is what I thought. It can be some tips that can help you to at least start thinking on how my career be in the future. At the end, I want to share some of the skills that any job market can ask for today from an engineer or a developer. This is not only about the technical skills, I would say, because if you are going to be in a real job world, it's different than just coding and solving problems. So you need skills on how to program and how to code. And not only in one language, you need to learn the concepts in each language for. Also, as software development, you need to know the cycle of how software will be built from the beginning till the end. You need to know about object-oriented design, how the structure of the data, how the stuff being built as well. and the most important thing you need to know also about testing and debugging, because believe me, this is the most thing you will be doing uh, through your whole career or your whole journey, I would say. Because while you are testing, you will be able to find the bugs, you will be able to improve your code, you will be able to find the better way on how you can improve the way you code. As well as some other skills, I would say, and this is more about how you can act as a team member, because it's not only about coding, it's about how you will be communicating with people, maybe from other field. Maybe you are a front-end engineer and you have for sure back-end engineer or scrum master or any other people in the team. You need to be able to communicate with these people, ask your questions, have an answers, and be an important team member, I would say. Also, you need to have your presenting skills, because for sure you will go through meetings, you need to present your work, and this is something you need to learn about. Yeah, I remember for me when I did my first presentation, I couldn't answer most of the questions. I was very nervous. I didn't put the right words into my presentation. So then I knew that I need to practice more on how to present, how to attract the listeners, and how to be good on showing my ideas. As well as having some performance improvements, because now we want our products to be performing well, security well, build up very well. So you need to know about those to be able to have, I would say, the best code or the better way of it. And for sure, I would also agree with Natalia that there are a lot of skills that most of the developers should have, like time management, communication, be transparent, to do your job the best, split your time, and those are very important skills that any engineer would need. Actually, this was my tips about. I am very open to any question. Maybe Isidora is here or someone.
Hi.
Hi.
I'll ask some questions that they have asked here. So what programming languages and frameworks do you use in your job as a front-end engineer?
So as a front-end engineer, how did I start? I for sure started by learning the fundamentals of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and then after that, when I felt like, okay, I mastered the basics, I mean the languages that I can build a small program with, or a website, I would say, then I moved to another platforms. I learn about React, I learn about Vue.js, for instance, and also I was learning Node beside to be able to have like my service on. So this is where I start, but unfortunately, when I started as an intern in Backbase, the company was working with Angular platform, so I needed to learn everything about Angular from the beginning. I went through courses. I remember I visited Stack Overflow most of the times, because I had a lot of questions that I need answers about. I had my colleagues also to help me finding my answers. So it depends. For you, for sure, you will have your preferences, but also there is needs at the time, at the work environment.
Okay. Another question is, technology is more work than getting a certificate, meaning it is a practical experience.
I didn't understand that one.
I don't think I understood that one either. So I'll go to the next question. Does European Leadership University offer in-campus bachelor programs, or are they offered fully online?
Yeah, I think you can answer
I think
this.
I can answer that. They're offered fully online. There's no in-campus bachelor programs. And then there's another question. Should I do multiple frameworks or master one completely?
It's I would say not mastering, but because each platform has its own way of working. Like for instance, React is more about storages, and Angular is more about components, dividing, and the structure of the project. So it depends. You can visit multiple of them, and then when you feel you are comfortable with one, then you can master it. Because like for me, for example, when I started with React, I thought, yeah, I find maybe the one, I would say, for me. But then when I started with Angular, and then when I dig deeper in it, then I felt like, no, I need to focus more on Angular now. And not because of my job requires, but because, yeah, I felt in myself that I need to learn more about it. So it
Okay.
depends on the person, I would say.
Thank you so much, Aya, for speaking with us today. It
Thank
was
you
great
also.
having you. Next up, we have Massimo Belloni. Massimo works as a senior machine learning engineer at Bumble, and he will tell us 3 things he wishes he knew before starting a career in data science, which are great tips. So, welcome, Massimo.
Thanks. This presentation won't be that long, and I don't know if it will be interesting to anyone. It's just a couple of things, because when I was in university, I was going in a little bit of a end of university crisis. I didn't know what to expect from the market. I didn't know if I knew enough. I didn't know enough. And in the last 4 or 5 years, I'm having a career in machine learning, data science in a couple of different countries. And so, I mean, after 4 years, I'm in a stage where I can tell something that I found interesting. Who am I? I'm Massimo Belloni, clearly Italian. I'm doing machine learning at Bumble, specifically in the integrity and safety team. So one of the biggest achievements in the last year has been building a huge NLP model that is helping to classify messages on the platform as toxic, obscene, insulting, and had a huge impact on the business. I mean, I don't know if you know Bumble, but we struggle to build a world where relationships are healthy and equitable. So actually, it was a huge improvement. I studied computer engineering at Politecnico di Milano. Never done any kind of weird Erasmus here and there because it was too focused on studying, probably. I moved into the Netherlands, to Rotterdam. I work in Housing Anywhere. There is a scale-up company. I became a team lead of the data engineering team there. Then I started to work for Bumble. I'm currently in London, and I'm senior machine learning engineer for the integrity and safety team. On the side, one of the topics that probably interests me the most out of working hours and still in the artificial intelligence field is concept of consciousness, or philosophy of artificial intelligence, weak versus strong AI, and all this kind of stuff. So if you are in this field and you want to chat about these topics, you can find me pretty much wherever. You know, my name and surname in 2022 should be quite easy to find me. 3 things, really. I will treat them as different pillars, and then I will give you a couple of comments about each of them. The first thing, when I was in university and I was reading about achievements that people were having in the industry, I was like, well, I will never be that good. What I'm studying now is too theoretical. I'm studying about, I don't know, theory of machine learning, and I don't know nothing about deep learning. The NLP that I'm studying is very keywords based. Again, I was studying 5 years ago, so it might be that now things changed a little bit. Actually, the theoretical background that university gave me was more than enough to traverse whatever kind of problem I had to solve in the last 4 years. And actually, it's the other way around. I'm very thankful of all the theoretical foundation I have, because whenever I study something now, or I upskill myself on some topics, it's very, very hands-on. And I'm very grateful that I had these 5 years of my life, because in Italy it was 3 years the bachelor, 2 years the master, to focus on something very theoretical, because you will never have this chance. Either you take a sabbatical and you take a degree on whatever. I'm very thankful to the academical background that I have. And then specifically in the very early stages of your career, what people stress in interviews is indeed the theoretical foundation. if now I go to do an interview, they might stress some other aspects, what I deliver in my career, how to approach project management, etc., etc. At the very beginning, also when I look at the question that I ask as an hiring manager in my company is, how much do you know how a transformers architecture work? How much do you know about the difference between logistic regression or linear regression, underfitting, overfitting? And are concepts that after 4 years of university, I'm able to explain now, but they don't have the depth, the vocabulary, and the attention to details that I had back in the days. And then another topic, I mean, 4 years, 5 years that I graduated, the state of the art moved super fast. And of course, I mean, to be in the business, to be in machine learning requires you to be up to speed with whatever happens in the research world. But very likely a person that is coming out of university knows way more details and way more nuances about deep learning models. I mean, I'm not ashamed to tell you that I know how a generative adversarial network works. I write papers, but I never had the time to explore and to actually train a gun in my life. And might be that some people that are fresh out of university had this chance, and it's for sure a learning experience, because when you solve these kind of problems, that might be that on the side you discover you upskill in Python, you upskill in other areas that you were not targeting when you were, okay, let's train a generative adversarial network. And last topic, no exams. I'm a person that tended to have a lot of anxiety for exam, no matter how much I studied, etc., etc. When you work, there are no exams, and then there is a trick in a sense. I mean, don't tell to my employer or whatever, but when you have problems at work, something that always helped me to go to sleep at night. When you have problems at work, you can always resign. You cannot resign from your own life when you study and you have an exam that looks too complicated or whatever. Then in general, also university is just a matter of studying and applying. If you treat university as a 9-to-5 job, you won't be disappointing. Second step, that is something that helped me out at the very beginning while traversing a career in data science, getting things done, having a very results-oriented mindset, being an engineer in how you deal with data science is way, way more impactful than being the state of the art. Here I have to make a distinction in a sense that if you want to do research-oriented work, there are, of course, there is the PhD career, there are a lot of research-oriented companies that provide you that career path. But if you in 95, and it's a percentage that I'm dropping here, don't put me on the record, in the 95 of the jobs in data science, it's not required to be the state of the art, to be impactful. There are exceptions, because I mean you can read a lot around the NLP model that I was mentioning earlier about what we're working on in Bumble is indeed a state of the art model, but NLP itself is a very specific niche. But really, don't overestimate the average status of data products in the business. If you come there with the right mindset, with a data-oriented mindset, with the right skill set, a logistic regression, a decision tree, an XGBoost, that it's something that might be that in university you say, oh, an XGBoost is, everyone knows it, can have a huge impact on the business. In my previous company, we pretty much revolutionized the way that we were dealing with scammers on our platform, thanks to an XGBoost at the beginning. Then it has been a little bit refined, but was an XGBoost at the beginning. Just get things done. Just prove the value of what you're doing very quickly. And don't be scared of, like, might be that really a simple Python script with a couple of queries and an if-else logic, data-driven with the right approach, the right mindset, can have a huge business impact. And then possibly when you have the buy-in from the stakeholders, etc., try to research something, an architecture that is very specific for your use case, explore more complicated frameworks, etc. But at the beginning, especially if you work in a company that doesn't have a long history in data science project, doesn't have a very structured data science team, as often happens in startup or scale up, just provide value, be impactful, and then think about beating the state of the art. Again, if you, when I was studying university, one of the causes of my biggest frustration has been the master thesis, because I'm an engineer, I don't have the PhD mindset, and doing research, it's very rewarding at the end, but requires you to go through a lot of stages of frustration, experiments that don't work, endless attempt to be the baseline of 1%. If you have that kind of mindset, we need you in the world, because I mean the job that I'm doing wouldn't be possible if there wouldn't be thousands of talented researchers that really like to have this kind of mindset and cure into the tiny details. But if you want to do research, probably doing data science in 99% of the companies is not the right job for you. And last step, there is the one that I think that is more controversial, and I would spend also a little bit of time to give you the whole understanding. Learn a little bit of DevOps. I know that, and thankfully in data science, there are people that have a lot of different backgrounds, because I mean, I told you, I'm a computer engineer, I study computer engineering. My career written on paper wouldn't be to become a software developer, an architect, or whatever in this area. I decided to do data science for different reasons, because I like to interact with people. I like to be very horizontal in the things that I do. And in data science, there are people that come, I don't know, from statistics, from mathematics, from economics, etc., etc. But learning a little bit of DevOps, in a sense, when I say DevOps, it's a little bit of a buzzword, but let's say you have to be able to be impactful, especially again in small size companies. In order to be impactful, you have to be able to deploy to production your machine learning models by yourself, because I used to work in a smaller companies, and at the beginning, when the data science organization is not mature enough, there's a lot of it's complex to actually have buy-in from engineering teams to take your model and put them to production. Brings a lot of value being able to wrap your scikit-learn model, again, nothing too complicated, in a Python application, expose it as an HTTP endpoint, speak to engineers and tell them, okay, this is the way you have to call my model, etc. And then deploying it to production. Really, with Flask, there is if you don't know what Flask is probably the easiest HTTP framework that Python provides. Docker, that is again a framework, a product, you can call it whatever, to be able to containerize your Python script. And then Kubernetes, again, it's not simple at all. Kubernetes is probably one of the most complicated concepts in today's IT, but very likely in scale-up startup, small companies, they have already a Kubernetes cluster, a managed Kubernetes cluster, having these three pillars, like being able to write Python to expose your model, being able to containerize your script in order to have it replicable, and being able to know a little bit of Kubernetes in order to deploy to production makes all the difference. If someone that is fresh out of university, and I know that in this audience there are a lot of people that are in this state now, the single skill that you have to collect as soon as possible in order to be more relevant in your first job experience is being a unicorn, an horizontal data scientist, a full stack data scientist, a machine learning engineer, whatever is the name that the market gives to these individuals now. You have to be able to train and start with a business problem, train the model, deploy to production. And then, I mean, when you will have buy-in, there are engineers that are more skilled, seasoned, and experts than we are to actually improve it. But being able to deploy your first POC by yourself speeds up stuff a lot, and also helps yourself to gain the recognition as the person that gets things done in the company. That is never bad. And that's pretty much it. I don't know. I know that I am 7 minutes early, probably, but I'm more than ready to answer to your questions. If you have any curiosities about, I don't know, whatever point I touched, or who I am, my career, this is my name, really, feel free to add me on LinkedIn, Medium, or wherever you can find me, and chat about whatever curiosity you might have. Waiting for some question. Okay, how do you overcome the stress when you receive the new task? You have a fear in advance that you will not be able to solve the given task. Very good question. In a sense that what I had to learn, especially in the last year of my career, since I started to work in a bigger company with more responsibilities, with more seniority, is that not everything is urgent and not everything needs to be done by me now. I think that it's something that you learn with time and based on experience, in a sense that after 5 years of university, 5 years of careers, if you manage to solve things so far, very likely you will be able also to solve the new ones. Because solving problems is more of a mindset. Because I mean, happened in the past that I didn't have the right skills to solve a task, but I had the right mindset. So I took my time, I upskilled myself. It's more having confidence in yourself, having confidence in what you deliver so far, what you've done so far. We can discuss about this. It's also imposter syndrome, etc. It's a very good question. Solving things is not a matter of skills, it's a matter of mindset, if I have to put it in a sentence. And your history matters. It's not that you wake up on a day and you have to forget about your history and your delivery. Don't change the mindset and we'll keep delivering also tomorrow. I would like to understand the master data scientist algorithm. Thanks in advance. A lifetime, I guess. In a sense that I stopped thinking that I can become a data science expert. I think that it's important to keep yourself updated. So, for example, receive weekly newsletters about the state of the art, because especially, and it's related to what I was telling you before, when you study in university, you have a lot of, not free time, but you have a lot of time to go very in depth in all the topics that you are interested in. When you work, is way less likely that you are able to go that in depth. So surround yourself with newsletter, quick updates, LinkedIn that tells you, okay, there is a new NLP algorithm that researchers at Google are working on, and read a little bit like the executive summary. But don't aim to become an expert. Again, if you want to become a PhD, a researcher, do it. I'm not the right person to speak about this career path. To be successful in the industry, just try to be as horizontal as possible, knowing a little bit of everything, knowing that you can go in depth if needed, but you cannot become an expert in all the data science algorithms. Just try not to use them as a black box. It's probably the only advice, and it's something that I stress when I do interviews. When someone tells me about, okay, I use an XGBoost, I used a transformers, I want to be sure that the person, the data scientist, knows what they are talking about. Not in depth, he's not a researcher, but not using them as black boxes is what is key to me to be successful in this field. Master working experience, would you recommend to find digital and get your first job? It's a good question. I think that picking, it's also a little bit of luck. At the beginning, I wouldn't be like working for Bumble and being very happy about what I'm doing if it wasn't for a little bit of luck, and also mindset in getting your hands dirty and keep experimenting and stuff. How can you pass interviews when you found the internship is work on your strong theoretical foundation. How to find a good internship is also a matter of don't focus on a single one. Do as many interviews as you can. Don't tell to my employer or tell to my employer I keep doing interviews even if I'm super happy where I'm working at the moment, because it's important to also to become better and better to do interviews, to get a sense of what other teams are doing. Let's say build yourself your own literature of what companies are doing, and then create your own taste on what you think is an healthy organization. And also don't be scared to speak with senior or managers in tech companies and ask them, okay, how are you organizing your work? What you think is the most important stuff for having a successful data science team? And then look for these details in all the data science teams that you're interested in. And the size doesn't really matter. Like I found startups that have a very, very healthy data science team with very talented individuals, very good managers, and big companies that are big corporates that have very, very bad data science team and very boring projects. Just create your own taste and then do as many interviews as you can. Self-confidence issues, yes. I had a lot of them in the past, and I still have, in a sense that is, I mean, it looks like a therapy session now. I still have. There are some days that you feel like that you're an imposter and the most stupid person in the whole company, and some other days that might be that you have your PR accepted and you feel like you're God and no one can say you anything against it. Yes, it's also a matter of history. Like you probably getting adult is also understanding that it's not that you wake up every day and everything that you've done so far is forgotten. Also, like we're speaking to people that are graduating in tech. If you graduated in tech, you're already in the top X percentile of people in the world that actually successfully graduated. The future is bright. Don't forget what you already achieved, knowing that having problem of self-confidence on at least 1 day per week is the norm. I'm having mine, but I learned to understand there is peaks and bottoms. You have to be able to traverse both. Also, like peaks can be as scary as bottoms sometimes. It's up to just growing and knowing that is a part of the cure. Consciousness. Not really, in a sense that whoever knows AI and machine learning enough, especially, I mean, no one really is worried that weak AI and consciousness are a topic. I think that personal opinion, whoever is an expert in machine learning knows that with the current approaches, we will never find consciousness. We are experts in what we are doing. We are building machine learning models. We never question that the models that we are building were conscious. So no, but it's fun. I mean, I will have a learning session in a couple of weeks that I want to speak about these topics that I'm passionate about, but more as a, let's say, off-topic or fun learning session for people that are not familiar with, I don't know, the Chinese room argument or these kind of things. How technical a data scientist should be in order to be impactful depends on the size of the team and the maturity of the team. If the team is small and you are one of the first hires in the team, a lot, because there is a good importance in being able to deploy your models. And it's the other way around when the team grows, because having a too pragmatic mindset that usually engineers have, it's counterproductive in later stages, where actually having the 1% increase in performances might change the perception of a model. So to wrap up, at the early stages of a team, it's very important. At the later stages, probably it's better the other way around, having less engineers and more researchers.
Matthew, and also for answering all of them. Very good. I will introduce everyone our next speaker, Akio. Is Akio integrate? He worked.
Hi everyone, can everyone hear me? I think, right? We'll be looking at the private chat because Isadora, your microphone was echoing a lot. So thank you everyone for joining the session. I will be trying to guide you out to how not to become a CIO. Would you like to switch to the dark side? No, I'm just coming from there, so it's not funny. But long story short, I know that you are either at the beginning or at the very early stages of your tech career, and you are really willing to pursue the dream of becoming a mind bender and allowing the business enabled and empowered with delivering your code or your artifacts or impact in the game, and you want to seek for recognition, right? So let me just try to share my screen now, and I'm also, yep, and that's the journey we will be moving on. So we are in the light speed year, right? And we are in the space era. So we all want to mimic the frontier runners of the technology or engineering activities that is currently run by Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, etc. And I believe that everyone is looking after the trends and the predictions of what's going to happen next. And data scientists, AI, machine learning, and many other, let's say, cloudification and all that infrastructure is the future, of course. That is being validated by many universities, many consultancy companies, and including Gartner and Forrester, kind of predictive, let's say, academic research companies as well. So what I want to bring into your attention is like, how not to become that person called the CIO. But before that, I really want to give a small introduction about myself to support the content that I will be bringing into your attention and also raise some confidence about that. I'm just kidding. So I'm born and raised in Turkey. 3 years ago, I immigrated to the Netherlands with the age of 37. I'm an expat here, and I'm working for ING. I have a engineering background with a Master of Science degree in the industrial engineering area. My Bachelor of Science is Mathematical Engineering, so I totally understand what you were saying about the data science and algorithms, Massimo. So it was good to catch up with those, let's say, concepts. So I have 18 years of work experience in dispersed roles. Started as a business analyst in the alternative delivery channels in a bank, and then pursued a career to fraud and security expert, and then to the IT audit, and then consultancy background, and ending up as a risk and technology executive person working in ING. For the last 10 years, I'm managing teams, supporting executives in many dispersed industries and many dispersed roles, including recently our retail country CIOs, COOs, business and risk leaders in the ExCo level. So today I want to take your attention into as how not to become that kind of CIO. And I do believe that many of you are working under tech functions, either reporting to a CTO at the end or a CIO that leads the technology strategy of the organization you're working in. So who is that person assigned as the CIO? I just put a link there, and I think you will be accessing the content right after me. There is a how-to wiki page for anything. And there has been a literally how to become a CIO article being submitted during September 2021. And there were 6 co-authors were contributing to that. And what they are actually mentioning there is a CIO should be a business transformer. A CIO should be technology visionary. CIO should be the advocate of the customer experience and all the things that customer needs to be doing by themselves or increasing the digitalization, but also the mainly is a culture warrior. So they are the technology culture ambassadors on the ExCo level, executive committee level. So after this speech, you assume that person is a Superman or Superwoman, right? But actually, this person is a well-educated, strong engineering background and working experienced person. So that person spent some of his time, her time, or their time in managerial roles. And they have highly vasting communication and leadership skills that they invested. So what if I told you that's not enough? And actually, the content I brought to your attention, which is common practice, right? Everyone will be telling you that. Not sure if the context is needed at all. So I'm making a twist here, right? I took your attention. What is actually being a CIO is all about staying in the moment and understanding what is actually surrounding you and what resources you have, where you want to go, and what people with you and enjoying that journey with you. So it's all about solving problems with the given tools or available tools around you and the skills you have to either influence people, inspire people, or operate people. So what does this mean? So there are 3 main activities that is expected from a CIO to pursue. Either transform or adapt the organization to stay relevant, to keep with the sales upcoming, customer service ongoing, to keep maximizing your profits and reducing your cost landscape with digitalizing or enabling the digitalization with providing additional features like AI, data science, data warehouse mindset, and predictive analysis. It goes on like that. But actually, they have also another activity that they should be doing is run the business, meaning what is already been there, what is already being sold as a service, what's already being provided to the customers, clients, or internal customers, the employees, you need to run the business. And while doing those 2 in hand, you need to juggle the third ball, which is looking ahead, understanding the predictions and where the industry is ongoing, and you need to design and plan. So if you just look at the CIO's brain, that is a normal human brain. So we either start acting like a CIO or we become a CIO. So there's no difference between those 2, in my humble view, based on the experience I had with all the CIOs that I worked closely with. And their main problem is making the right decision in the intersection point of all those 3 activities, what I should be doing. And that's where they need thought partnership. So if you just design and plan ahead, you just focus on transformation and adaptation, but then you put a gap between run the business. So then run the business legacy systems become a technical and organizational debt in the future that will be burden on your shoulders, and you will think like, how the hell I'm going to get rid of that? Which actually incubates into the gap economies. You either forget to refresh the skill set or the language coding or the infrastructure or the technology in place. And also you avoid being, let's say, reaching out to the technology or access to the technology that will be taking the burden off your shoulders. But to do those two things, you need to be also persistent. So a CIO mostly has a management team around him or her or they. So what does management team do? They either look at the enterprise architecture, they either look at the IT security or focus on IT governance, they focus on delivery of the services or products or code, whatever that delivery is, and also the infrastructure. So mainly those 6 people around him will creating the inspiration into his game or her game or their game to make the perfect decision for the organization to go for the victory that has been determined as a strategy. So it's all about either putting it in the agenda for strategy or prioritizing it, giving a hard decision, either go, no go, or again, let's try it again. We will learn from its mindset. But at the end of the day, it's all about culture. It's all about what kind of engineering culture, technology culture you are actually maintaining in your organization and how you're spreading that craftsmanship around the organization with many way of working models. Right now, everyone is using Agile, but 20 years ago, Agile is kind of, we like to do the waterfall. And then somehow there has been a transition like, let's do Kanban, and then let's do Scrum. It just have many methods. At the end of the day, it's the culture of the organization at the executive committee leaders level and how the CIO contributes to that, representing the technology and enabling the business in the right way to be the leader, strategic advisor for the executive committee. It's all about respect. It's all about execution. And unfortunately, in the technology function, if you really want to have confidence, you need to survive with availability issues first. That's the only way you gain the trust. All in all, I just wanted to give you a small intro of a very, let's say, highly regulated, let's say, a company's change environment, like from strategy to implementation phase of an idea. So on the left, there is this change board. You have chief product officer, you have a CIO, you have a COO, and they have in the inner triangle, you have the subordinates. And then there is a continuous cycle per product with the solution delivery board people, like chief architect kicks in, there is this IT delivery lead, and then the COO of the product. Apart from the product team, there's another guy, there's another person responsible of implementation of the product and rollout, this kind of change management activity outside the product team. So, and everything rolls up, becomes a backlog, product backlog. And then there are a lot of other complex rule of the thumbs kick in, and it goes to the IT delivery. And at the end, there is a working product. So the CIO or CIO's team is not enough. This is kind of organizational behavior. And to do that, you need to identify your strengths and weaknesses and try to find a very lean game so that you can actually make your engineers engaged, make your infrastructure operators engaged, and everyone knows their purpose of their existence in the organization. So then you can actually do a career planning. You can actually identify your value for the organization and how long you will be staying with that organization or how long you will keep learning in the organization. Because you can learn with the limits of your organization in your day-to-day activities. So that's why many of the good engineers or data scientists or AI modelists leave the companies. Not that because of the company is not supporting, but they are leaving their leaders because those leaders are not allowing them to grow. They hit the limit. So long story short, what we talked about until here is how a CIO should be. So reverse engineering of that is not to become a CIO. I just wanted to give the positive news before the negative, because everyone perceives the CIO should have highly problem-solving skills, right? If you have that power, engaging people, bringing all that craftsmanship around the problem, you can solve it, right? But what if? I hope everyone knows the Matrix movie from 1999. There is no spoon. So we are trying to bend the spoon, and we are just trying to come up with this, overcome this problem. But we don't have the right expertise around the table, and we are suffocating around that. So what if there is no problem? What if we are the problem? We are creating the problem. So now we are actually passing through the dark chasm and the dark side of why not to become a CIO. Most of the pitfalls done by CIOs in many industrial, let's say, industry technology functions are they don't cope with the organization culture or modus operandi. There, you need to be fitting inside, because maybe you are overachieving stuff and you are overselling yourself and you commit too much and you bring the team with you, and then it's just not fit with the organization pace. So the minimum frequency should be your standard. And if you want to go fast, then you need to bring that pace into the whole organization to run fast. And new doesn't mean the best way to go all the time. We need to go for containerization. Either we need to go for Kubernetes or OpenShift, but we need to do it. But you are running legacy mainframe system, man. Come on, you cannot go for containerization. What you should be doing, maybe, think out of the box, what to containerize, and then how to make my engineers also happy with dealing with the technical debt I have. So that's the magic thing that the CIO should be using, the first activity, transform and adaptation. And we as engineers, born to solve problems. That's how we justify our existence, right? Imagine the CIO is the same because he or she or they are also a human being. They just been through they have been through this career path just long before than us. So they like to talk complex languages, not only to show how sophisticated they are in a very ignorant environment, but also try to protect themselves from budget perspective, from resource perspective, from vendor ecosystem perspective. We need to just simplify it and make it transparent and make the fluency in the organization for technology aspects more broadly. So that will cost less than the amount you will be paying to the new technology that will be bringing complexity in the organization. And reducing cost and not investing in technology landscape, including the resources, is also another aspect of a big, good suicide. And as I also explained, like being very ambitious and committing unrealistic goals and delivery goals also burns down the organization, including you start losing your engineers. So you need people to run the show. And as I said, if you don't represent technology in a strategic way, but just operational way, then the board of directors will start see you as a cost center. So as a last message, I would like to bring into your attention is like, you need to go through your journey to discover yourself, strengths, and your purpose. It's always easy to learn new skills or capabilities, but actually the attitude is being hired in organization. So what kind of a person you are is the foundational role in the game. And whatever you just wear on top of that person as new skills, as a new, let's say, capability, like a jacket or a sweater, it will look really good on you, believe me. And you will start attracting people. And in the future, in my humble view, there won't be any role appointments taking place, but there will be community selections, community of engineers selecting their leaders based on situational activities. So then everyone needs to focus on themselves, learn themselves, and invest in their strengths, but not only their vulnerabilities. So I think I was ahead of the time, and we can go for questions and answers, if I may. Isadora, hi.
Hi, Tulu. How are you?
Doing well, thanks. I think
Sorry
your
about my
mic is better
network
now.
connections.
Yeah.
What's this networking tab all about?
This
I
question
think
is not
this
for
is
me,
a
right?
general question. I think it was a question for your presentation. We will have a stream, a network at the end of a networking session at the end of our summit. So
Cool.
I can answer that question.
Easy one.
Yes, that's an easy one. Any other questions?
I think I paralyzed the audience, or they might be scared of typing some questions. Come on, shoot.
I think it was a very interesting talk. Maybe they were like, how not to become a CEO? What?
Yeah, of course.
That was the goal. Well,
I think I
anyways.
picked the right topic not to have any questions.
Exactly. Thank you very much for coming and talking
You're
to
welcome.
us.
It was a pleasure to attend, and best regards to everyone. And I wish all success and gratitude to the audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So for I'm happy to introduce Sandrika Shetty next. She works at Offerzen as a talent advisor. She will tell us about how to land a tech job in a post-pandemic world. So welcome, Sandrika.
Hi, everyone. I'm not sure, is my screen being shared? Can everybody see everything? Is it all good? Okay, perfect. Great. So yeah, I'm Sandrika. I'm a tech talent advisor at Offerzen. I'm super excited to be here this evening to just share some key insights in tech hiring in this post-pandemic world. But before I get started, I would like to introduce myself. Okay. So I have completed my honors in psychology, and I'm really passionate about empowering individuals. I've worked in NPOs like the Reach for a Dream Foundation, and at Offerzen, I've been able to continue this passion. Today, by sharing these insights, I hope to give you some insight and also empower you in your career. As a tech talent advisor, I work with a range of tech talent, from graduates who are entering the marketplace for the first time to architects with 15 plus years of development experience. I guide, I advise, and support them through their job search. So you must be wondering, what is Offerzen all about? So Offerzen is a tech marketplace that has flipped the traditional recruitment model. So instead of you applying to a company directly for a role, companies now reach out to you in the form of an interview request and with an upfront salary offer. So how does the whole process begin? So we create a profile. And on this profile, it's all about describing you best. So what are the roles you're interested in? What are you looking for next? Also giving you the opportunity to share your skills that you have gained through personal upskilling, studies, and work experience. We also put down the salary that you are looking for next to make it visible to companies. So both you and the company are on the same page from the beginning, to avoid that difficult and awkward conversation that generally comes at the end of a hiring process. Once your profile is complete, we upload it onto our platform where it becomes visible to companies. And if a company likes what they see, then they reach out to you in the form of the interview request and with that upfront salary offer. You decide who you want to interview with. All we ask is that you communicate with these companies thoroughly throughout. The joy here is that companies come to you. So it takes away that uncertainty of, is this company interested in me or not? Because they reached out to you from the onset. As a talent advisor, you must be wondering, how do I advise? How do I coach? So if you're to think about when you go on a holiday and you're getting from one tourist attraction to the next, you often whip out your Google Maps to figure out how to get from point A to B. So talent advisors are the Google Maps to your job search. We're here to help you with anything job related, from prepping for interviews and assessments to navigating through any roadblocks that may appear on your job search, as well as just being your sounding board throughout this journey. We also get paid set salaries, so we don't earn commission. So our dub here is finding you a job that's going to make you the happiest and give you an amazing experience on the platform. So taking this into account, we're now going to look at today's agenda for the session. Firstly, we're going to look at the impact that COVID-19 has had on the tech hiring scene, specifically taking a deep dive into the shift that's happened in hiring managers' mentality. Also, then looking at how we can navigate through this new hiring process, and specifically looking at what are hiring managers now looking for. And then I'll share some practical tips on how to job search. So you may be asking yourself, how has things changed since COVID? But before we look at how have things changed, it's important to look at what were things like pre-COVID. So the hiring process pre-COVID favored developers, particularly top tech talent, and they were notoriously difficult to recruit. So companies would be much more accommodating and risk-taking when it came to hiring them. So for example, they would put an entire process on hold to give developers the 3 weeks that were desired for them to come back to the company. Then during COVID, both candidates and companies became risk aversive. Companies were less willing to take chances on, for example, a highly technical candidate that may not have been a clear culture fit. And then candidates themselves were less willing to jump ship to a new and more exciting opportunity if they already had stable employment. So now, what are things looking like post-COVID? So it's important to note, firstly, that we're actually not in the post-pandemic or post-COVID world yet. We're really in the transition period between pandemic to post-pandemic. And that said, we have observed that the power dynamic between candidates and companies has become more balanced. While top tech talent is still greatly desired by companies, the reality is that remote hiring in the tech recruitment marketplace has become far more competitive than it was ever before. So developers are now competing across borders against the best of the best for the first time. And then you have some companies that are still dragging their feet into the transition of becoming fully remote. And then some companies are also just not set up and able to run fully remote interview processes. So a lot of developers are focusing their job search towards remote positions, but there are a few companies offering this. That's why it's becoming a very competitive marketplace in order for candidates to get what they truly want next. So why is this all important? Why is this topic important? It's that 1 in 4 developers want to move jobs in the next 3 to 12 months. This means that while the demand for tech roles has increased in the aftermath of COVID, so has the supply of top tech talent as more and more developers are entering the marketplace. Whether they're an active job seeker or a passive browser, they're entering the marketplace. So what we have then observed is that you're competing in an interview process with developers that have a varying degree of commitment to the role that they're interviewing for. So thinking about that as well, now going into the job search, we now look at how has COVID made an impact on tech job hunting. So as I said, it's more competitive. There's a surplus amount of applicants for open positions. There's candidates who have been laid off their jobs, and then there's candidates that are just looking for that perfect role. We also have more demand for specific roles. Because a lot more companies are becoming remote, they're requiring more cybersecurity roles, data science-based roles, and cloud-based roles. There's also been an increase in the dev demand for remote, flexible working conditions, which are, of course, seen to be very hard to get. And then there's also more diversity in the marketplace. People who have home or children care obligations are now able to enter the workforce as they're now able to work remotely. And then companies are reducing the risk. So they will not hire you if they are unsure of you because they cannot afford the cost of a bad decision. So thinking about this all, how has this impacted the mindset of hiring managers? So what you need to understand about the shift that's happened with hiring managers is that, firstly, the market being oversaturated has meant that hiring managers are seeing a lot more applications. Then there's also pressure on the hiring manager to make the right hire because funding is so tight for that company right now. Teams are so fragile, and many companies have only recently gone remote. So there's a sense from the hiring manager that this person has to be the right fit in the team, firstly, and has to be successful from the beginning because I cannot afford for this not to work out. This also then leads to hiring managers having high decision-making fatigue and risk aversion to taking chances on good candidates. Firstly, what does that then mean for candidates? They need to make themselves stand out by showing that they are actually a perfect fit for this company. So how do you make yourself stand out? Hiring managers are looking for 3 factors. Yes, these 3 factors, but they're also looking for a bit more. They're expecting a bit more because they are so picky at the moment. So number 1, show up fully and do your research. You cannot come up into an interview without any knowledge of the company's product, service, vision, or mission and expect to proceed, even though you may have the technical ability. Because at this stage of the hiring processes, culture fit is as important as having a strong technical ability. And then, of course, having the technical skills for the role, but also devoting enough time, effort, and energy into the technical aspects of a hiring process. For example, not taking a tech assessment just before a meeting or in your lunch break, but really showing that you have interest and putting in effort into this hiring process. And then show that you're passionate about the role in the company. This will be easier if you consistently demonstrate knowledge of the company and that you'd be a great addition to the team. So now with COVID, we are living in this remote world, and so much has changed. We now have an access to a global talent pool. You're competing against candidates who are across Europe and also around the world. A lot of the interviews are now happening remotely via video call or phone calls, and then remote onboarding is taking place. You're starting a new job with little to no in-person contact. The one thing it offers in that we've picked up in this remote hiring world is a trend called pajama mindset. We found that a lot of candidates are not taking remote interviews as important or as serious as in-person interviews. So they're attending their interview on their cell phone or having poor internet connection or dressing inappropriately. And this is just showing poor interview etiquette to the hiring manager and that you're really not serious about this process. So what are the remote keys to success? Number 1, it may sound simple and pretty easy, but internet connection and signal. You don't want to be in an interview with a hiring manager trying to convince them that you're the best fit for this role in a robotic voice, or trying to repeating yourself consistently because the internet keeps cutting off. Strong internet connection is so important. It shows that you're professional and you're taking this seriously. Over-prepare for interviews. Do your research on the company. Show that you're a good fit. By having a clear understanding about the company, you're able to demonstrate how you would be a good fit with your knowledge and experience, as well as it gives you the opportunity to ask impressive and targeted questions, which show the hiring manager that you've done your homework and you're super interested in this role. And then communication. In this remote world, it's really hard to read audiences. So what's really important is to bring the energy and excitement and personality you have for the particular role you're hiring for throughout the hiring process, whether it be an interview, a thank you message after your interview, a follow-up message if you haven't heard back from the company, if the ball's in your court when you have to complete an assessment, being in touch with the company, letting them know when you're going to be handing it in. There's so much that has changed in remote hiring, and we have to use all these keys and tools in order to be successful in our job search. So now that I've touched on the hiring manager's mindset and what they're looking for and remote interview etiquette, we're now going to look at some practical tips for job searching. So practical tips is firstly thinking long-term about your career. Where do you see yourself going with your first or your next job? For example, if you think if you want to be a team lead, is this next opportunity going to allow me the growth for that, put me in the deep end to test my skills and abilities, give me a mentorship program where I can learn and grow? Also, to remember that when you're looking for experience and knowledge and growth, sometimes it may come with a little less salary than you would want, but it may give you the greater advantage in the long term. So don't get carried away by starting off with a high salary, because when you want to shift into a new job later on in your career, it may be a very difficult shift for a company to match that salary that you're asking for. Number 2, value your exposure to the work environment. This is super important. Your mental health is such an important part of work-life balance. So use the opportunities such as culture fit interviews to ask questions to companies regarding what are your ideas on work-life balance? How do you initiate leave days? Can I speak to a former and current employer or employee or your staff, and really get to know as much as you can about that company culture before you get to that end of their hiring process. And 3, be patient and resilient with yourself. Don't compare your journey with anybody else. There will be curveballs, but lean on your support. If you're with OfferZen, lean on your talent advisor, lean on friends and family. Job searching can be lonely, it can be disappointing, but timing is everything. It may happen quickly for you, or you may need to be patient. You just got to trust that it will happen. And yes, you may have all these tools and techniques on how to navigate the job search, but there are some important core traits that will help you navigate this unpredictable world that we're in. Emotional intelligence. The job search journey, as I've mentioned, will come with some rejection, some disappointment, also wins, learning and growth. You've got to take the feedback that you get and take it in your stride and use it as fuel to do better in your next interview. This also reflects on resilience, having resilience to overcome the challenges that come with job searching. Staying positive and motivated is really important in this job search journey. Self-awareness. Be able to recognize your weaknesses, areas of improvement, as well as your strengths. And then being adaptable to this ever-changing climate. So in conclusion, realizing that good enough is not good enough anymore in this current climate of job searching, and that companies want someone who's willing to commit to the interview process and that has both a technical ability as well as a passion for the role and the company. I hope this presentation has been insightful to you to land your next tech job in this post or pandemic world. In true OfferZen fashion, we'd like to give away some swag to each attendee. All you have to do is complete the form via the QR code or the hyperlink, and you will get one of these Get Fetched t-shirts. I can take some questions if there's time. Is technology proven to be effective in the time of corona pandemic? Welcome has technology. So I can answer this to the way I'm interpreting it, but you can correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm not answering correctly. But in terms of technology it's made things a lot more accessible to people around the world. So, having a laptop, having strong internet connection, having apps like Zoom allows you to connect with people all over the world, for example, and get hired by companies all over the world. So why are you saying that remote impacts tech hiring? Okay, so as I mentioned, remote affecting tech hiring is that it's okay. So not all companies have gone remote. So that's the challenge that we're finding in across companies. So yes, a lot of developers want to work remotely. So there isn't the opportunity for all candidates to work remotely because not all companies are offering that. That's answering. It's passed over. Okay, so it's definitely something that I've seen that's come up with a lot of the graduates that I've worked on. The job search journey is long, is very labor intensive, takes a lot of time and energy. So, I think sometimes what's a good idea when you have gone through like a lot of interviews to sit back and say, okay, what is the feedback that's been given to me? Is it things that I actually can use now to upskill, for example? Maybe I wasn't doing well in my tech assessments, or maybe I didn't get to the tech assessment stage because my interview etiquette wasn't good enough. So what can I work on? So let me actually take a step back. Let me take a break from interviewing and look at all the areas I can improve on, and then go back in a stronger, more fresh mindset.
Thank you so much, Sanjay. They were really good tips. I think they're going to be really useful for a lot of people. So thank you for coming and talking to us.
Thank you for having me. Good evening, everyone.
Course. And to introduce our next speaker is Christian Ludman. He has built a great career in software engineering and now works as a consultant at his own firm. And he will give tips on how to become a highly paid tech freelancer. So welcome, Christian.
Thank you. I'm just waiting for my slides. I think my slides is uploading now. Yeah, this is a talk for especially for software developers that are already got a job and are looking to go independent with their own freelance business, which is something I did a couple of years ago, and I was really glad about that decision. And in this talk, I will show you how I did it, so you can either get inspired or follow some of the tips to do it yourself. I think the slides are ready now. So we will be looking at my freelance story, how I got started, and like how my career looked like, and what separates the average developers from the 10x developers, how to find your dev's bullseye, which is like your sweet spot and which niche you should be specializing in, and then how to accelerate your career by marketing yourself efficiently, and how to get freelance clients. So my freelance story is, a little bit about myself first. My name is Christian Ludemann. I'm from Denmark. I'm 29 years old. I finished engineering school back in 2016, and now I'm one of the highest paid freelancers in my field, which is Angular development. And I do consulting and training in Angular, and you can also read more about that on my website at christianludemann.com. So in 2016, I graduated from the engineering school. I got my first job, which was a quite nice paying job, I think, at a financial institute, making around 80,000 US dollars per month, straight from college. I was working there, for almost 2 years, and I was really, really motivated. I was 23 years old at this time. I was really motivated to just give it all I had on my first job. and I was quite ambitious about having a good career. So I was working 60 hours a week at this job, and I was reading every recommended programming book and tried to learn as much as possible, taking courses and always learning stuff on the job. And then in 2018, I started blogging about my work and my knowledge, and I realized just hustling 60 hours a week on my job wasn't going to realize my goals of young financial independence. And I remember I had this talk once with my previous boss that he could only offer like 4% salary increases a year, and that was not really the path I was looking for. Then I realized that I could become an independent freelancer, and I could start making a lot more money, and also work in a more flexible way. So I started creating this blog and started marketing myself and building a brand in Angular development, which is the thing I was working with at that time. And luckily there was many freelance jobs and many companies looking for help in Angular development. So I landed my first freelance client. And that was actually just after writing 3 blog posts and almost 1.9 years at the full-time job. I got this nice 12-month freelance contract at this agricultural firm. And my rate almost doubled when I started freelancing. And also, as an Angular consultant, I also got a lot better because I was able to start working with different clients, and I was all in on just Angular instead of doing a lot of full stack development before. Just working on one thing, focus on one thing as a freelancer gave me this competitive advantage of just being very sharp in one thing. Also, this was how I market myself. I was keep writing blog posts. I was speaking at meetups and such to really make my online profile really strong in Angular development. So I kept getting more freelance clients, and I got this opportunity to go to Zurich and work as a freelancer there. I was doing training and consulting in Zurich, which was a nice experience to try and move to a different country and work for a lot of different companies and meet a lot of different people. Then after, I started getting some of the best contracts in Denmark in regards to Angular development. So I moved back to Denmark. I started taking more of these tech lead and coaching consulting gigs rather than just doing the raw app development. And I created this online coding school where I was teaching Angular development online through this 8-week mentorship. I consulted companies hands-on with coach, lead expert at a significantly higher rate. And yeah, in the end, it turned out really well. And of this whole trip from going to Zurich and having this experience with all the different companies put me on, give me access to the best contracts in my country. And later on, after 1 year into the pandemic, I got this. I started turning everything online because I wanted to travel and be able to travel with my work, and also I have saved up a significant investment portfolio, so I didn't really need to work that much anymore. So I mostly focused on work I actually wanted to do. So that was more like side projects. I still did consulting work here and there, and worked on my online Angular course, and just worked on projects I found interesting, and took some consulting work and then make sure to travel to all the cities in the world and live in different places as I desired. So that was my story. So what separates the average developers from the 10x developers? So most developers go through the career this way. They go to college, but are not creating relevant projects in the spare time, mostly just focusing maybe on getting good grades in school. And they get a more or less generalist developer job, maybe making a decent salary, but they might not be learning as much after graduation. And that probably leads to this slower pay raise and acceleration through the career. And they need to do these job changes to really get the bigger jumps in pay raise, like for example changing to another company, and then they can maybe get a 10 or 20% raise. Also, that was what I saw when I had my first job in the bank, where I could only get like 4% pay raises yearly. And they never really become a go-to person in the technology niche, and they don't really market themselves outside the company. And then there are the 10x developers that go to college or take some coding bootcamp, and they get a generalist developer job in the first 1 or 2 years. Maybe because they have more experience and relevant side projects, we can maybe get a better job. That's what I saw. If you have some side projects as you go to full college and you can present them, that is more important than good grades. And they are learning something every day. They're starting the workday, for example, with reading relevant blog posts or taking courses. They are going to meetups, sharing knowledge. Maybe they're doing blogging, or YouTube, or speaking at conferences. And they're starting to build up this online presence in a niche. And then they become a freelancer, and they will start making like 2 or 4x what they would normally make if they were just being a normally employee. So accelerating your career. So I got this method to how to find your niche and how you can start accelerating your career and start becoming a highly paid freelancer. So I actually recommend that you start as a generalist to explore your different interests and your different skills you could be good at, and also just to get a broad foundation, which is also what I did. So get some generalists, maybe some full stack job, and do both the back end, the front end, and try a lot of different technologies so you can develop some preferences. Then later on, you can find your bullseye, your niche to specialize in. For example, for me, it's Angular development. It could be React development for others. It could be whatever technology you find interesting. And you start building a brand in that niche by learning and marketing yourself in that niche efficiently. So this is how it looks like. You gotta be passionate about it, otherwise you will not stay consistent with it. You need to find something you could be good at to stay competitive. And you need to find something that actually is a market for. So something that people are willing to pay for high market value. And I figured out like the newer technologies in tech, like for example, Angular development or some other new trends, could be like cross app development platform. And they're quite good to find a fit here because they're quite new and there can be quite high demand on it without a lot of people that can do it. And you can also combine technologies to make up your own unique niche. You can take care of not being too general. You don't want to become like the full stack developer later on, because that is not really specialized in one thing. You rather become the go-to person in one niche. But you can mix up in-demand technologies you want to specialize in and market yourself in. So let me show you some examples. So for me, my specialty was Angular and DevOps. I knew how to create DevOps pipelines and I knew how to create Angular apps. So that was also what I was blogging about, how to do DevOps with Angular. And companies were looking for these skills. Companies were looking for people that could both do DevOps and Angular. And these days, it's something you have to be able to do both. So that's one example of two things you can combine to create a unique niche, also for your blog, and things you can, and something you can, something you can go to meetups and talk about. It could also be UX with Angular. If the UX was more your thing, and then you could do a blog about design and how to do it with Angular, React, or some other front-end framework, and you can really stand out. And you'll be the guy that can both design and also can actually implement with one of the frameworks. It could be Angular and test automation. If you're really into tests, you could do a blog or do talks about testing and how to do end-to-end testing and unit testing with Jest and all that. So that's some ideas you can start thinking about, like what should my niche be? Like as long as you're fitting like the passion thing and something you can be good at and something there's a market for, then you have a fit. You can try and start marketing yourself. So how do you actually market yourself? And why is it important? It's important because if you cannot prove it, no one cares. You need to give people some tangible proof that you actually are good at something. And decision makers are the one proofs, not evidence. So if you have some content or you have some conference talk or meetup talk or a blog, that is way better than some resume or LinkedIn profile claims, because everyone is writing a lot of programming languages and things on the LinkedIn profile. And good marketing makes it easier for the decision makers to say yes. So if you already have a lot of proof that you're good at what you're doing, then it makes it a lot easier, and they will also pay you better. Best bet developers are not the best developers necessarily, but they're good developers with an efficient and consistent marketing approach. And yeah, if you're good at if you're proving you're good for marketing, you're minimizing the risk of a bad hire for the employer or the client. So they're willing to pay you more. If you have a lot of blog posts up there, if you have a lot of conference or YouTube videos that actually prove that you're good at what you're doing, they pay more for that, because it's like an insurance premium. And when you're doing marketing right and you're doing all these things, either blogging or speaking at conferences or podcasting and such, interviews become very easy. You just show up to a casual interview because they already think you're good, and you'll just talk about like general terms, but they will not screen you anymore for technical skills because we already think you're good. So it becomes very easy to get clients from that point. Some people have some mental obstacles with marketing itself, which I'll just go through because it normally stops people doing any of these things. Many people, especially developers, have a problem with marketing and selling, and you have to let go of this if you are committed to reaching the next level in your career. Many associate selling with the sleazy used car salesman, and that couldn't be further from the truth, because selling is about providing value. You're already selling yourself all the time, so you might as well be good at it and doing it in a efficient way. Selling is simply about making it easy for people to make an accurate buying decision. And you're selling by creating proofs and letting the truth shine through. And we're not trying to bullshit people and telling people we can do something we can't. We stand our ground in our niche, and if there's something we can't do, we're not trying to. We will just be honest with the client and say, this is what we do. And if it's not a bad fit, we're willing to walk away. It also gives you a lot more credibility, because if you're not too desperate for getting the contract, but you're standing your ground, this is what I do. And also it will get you paid more because you will be a better fit for the contract. So what are the different ways to market yourself as a developer? I researched some different ways to do it. So one of them is speaking at conferences and meetups. It builds a lot of trust if you do that. It's a little harder to begin with, but it's a fast way to get known in the niche. Literally, if you go to one big conference or meetup, then like hundreds of thousands of people will know you from just maybe like a short presentation. So it's very efficient. Then the next best thing is podcasting. Guest podcasting, where you go and either create your own podcast and talk about some theme, or you go and guest podcast on someone else's podcast. Then you can create YouTube videos, which is also like a way so the viewers can get to know you better. It can take some longer time, and then you can do blogging, which was how I started, because it doesn't really require any performance to do blogging. You just, when you have time, you can start writing, and it provides content you can use for the other mediums. You can create a blog post and you can go speak at a conference later. So how to find your marketing methods? So I started doing blogging, and then I started doing YouTube videos once in a while, and then I started speaking at meetups and conferences and podcasts, which will come later on. And if in doubt, I'll just recommend you start with a blog, start creating you just set up a WordPress theme, and you start blogging about some niche you found from the dev's bullseye, and choose what you're confident in. If you're very confident in speaking, you might go directly to YouTube. If you're feel more like writing, you go to writing. But as I said, you can start with just one medium, and you can redistribute it into other medias later. And then getting the freelance clients. I got my first client when I wrote free blog posts. And I figured that works really good if you just have free blog posts in your niche and you link them up to your resume. So your resume is linking to the blog post. That is giving you a lot of more credibility, and people are not really doing this. So that makes you stand out and gives you a lot of proof that you can actually do what you're claiming you can do. And then you can post on LinkedIn and Twitter if you wanna really amp up the social presence. And you can add people on LinkedIn from the relevant groups, like React developers groups, and you can post, for example, small snippets of React development and tips daily. And when decision makers are liking your posts, you can reach out to them, and they already know you, so that's going to be a high probability they're going to be receptive to talk to you. And you can reach out to recruiters in your target demographic and let them know you are looking for clients. And you can also post on your social medias like Twitter and LinkedIn that you are available for clients, so they know they can come your way if it seems like a good fit. So what we learned is the traits of the 10x developers, the dev's bullseye, how you can find your niche and start doing freelancing in a specific niche, and how you can market yourself, and how to get freelance clients. So I will share these slides on my Twitter and LinkedIn as well, and you can check out my blog if you want to learn more about freelancing or Angular development, and you're welcome to reach out at my email, christian@christianlydeman.com, or at my Twitter at Lydeman. So this shows that having a niche Angular is a really good idea, but Angular seems very much on the decline now. Do you have any regrets about covering your in the coming years? I think it's just less hype. Angular is still going to be around, and I'm not really afraid of that. It's still a very good framework, and it still has a unique place in the market. So I'm not really too concerned with that. But worst case, and what you will normally see, you can jump to other frameworks. So you'll see Angular developers, but also learn React or Vue later on. And it's not that hard to learn when you're really good in one framework. You can move the knowledge you have in one framework to another framework. So worst case, that's what you would be doing. Just find something similar that's like the new hot thing. But I don't have any problems getting clients with Angular. So I don't. Yeah, but worst case, you'll find something that it's easy to transfer your knowledge to a relevant framework. It's a more stressful freelancing compared to a regular job. So I got my first contract, which was a 12-month contract, which is like a pretty safe thing. It's actually I had about the same job security as I had with a normal job. So that wasn't really stressful, the way the contract was set up. And as soon as you have some money saved up, it's not that stressful, and you believe in your skills. So probably the first contract, you want some longer contract. If at least you can get like a 6-month contract, then I don't think it's stressful, because you're gonna make in 6 months, you're gonna make the money you would normally make in 12 months anyways. So if you go without a job in the rest of the year, then you just made the same and you got yourself 6 months of vacation. So I don't see that's that big of a deal once you get the longer, longer contracts. What was your approach to finding clients, especially in the pre-referral early days? So I was working with recruiters actually. I had this recruiter who was helping me getting the first contract, and we were waiting for the right fit. I had this minimum hourly rate want to get. And he found a client that would pay that. And it also helped that I started blogging. So he was sending these blog posts to the clients, which made me seem even more credible and was putting more proof on the table. So recruiters can be fine, but of course it's better too if you can make the sale yourself. You can make like 20% more normally. What blog platform would you recommend to get started marketing yourself? I would start doing WordPress, because WordPress is the easiest way to do it. I've seen people creating like custom, because developers, they can know how to build stuff themselves. I've seen people build the custom blogging platforms with, React or something like that, and they spend so much time doing it. It can make sense if you need a side project to work on to put in your resume, but if not, WordPress is it's a good platform. You can turn it into a web shop later. You can blog from there, and you can set up something that looks great really quickly.
Thank you so much for coming and talking to us and for giving us tips on how to be a freelancer. It was a great talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then last but not least is Arjun. Thank you for accommodating the time a little bit. He's the managing director at Quarterfall, and he runs his YouTube channel, Arjun Codes. And he will talk to us about how design principles help you write better Python code. So welcome.
Thank you, Isadora. Hello, everybody. I hope you've been enjoying the Tech Summit so far. It's really nice to be able to talk here for a few minutes with you. So my background is in part from computer science education. I spent about 20 years teaching all kinds of computer science subjects, from programming to all kinds of software engineering topics. And the reason I wanted to talk about software design today with you is that I think it makes a huge difference in how you can progress through your career. In a few minutes, I'm going to also show some code just to prepare you mentally a bit for that, to give you a bit of an idea of what I'm talking about. But if you're writing simple scripts, let's say in a language like Python, then software design can really help you structure your code a bit more. Often when people think about software design, they immediately think of, let's say, huge ICT projects that cost millions of euros. And then, of course, those projects fail. The Dutch government, by the way, is very good at that. But even the ideas from software design, you can apply them to even simpler scripts. And by thinking about software design, by knowing a few of those principles behind software design, it can really help you take your basic script to a more complex script while it's still manageable and easy to change. And that's the whole idea. And lots of people in the software industry have written about software design. There are quite a few famous people. Like Robert Martin, for example, is a very well-known name, and they've all defined these principles as sets of guidelines that can help you and think a bit differently about structuring your code. And I want to talk about two principles today. There are more principles. I run a YouTube channel where I talk weekly about these things. It's at youtube.com/ArjanCode. You can find the link in the bottom. But two that I want to talk about that I think are really the most important are the principles of cohesion and coupling. Now, cohesion is about how many different things do you do in one piece of code. If you make an example with, let's say, the food industry, then a supermarket has very low cohesion. It does many different things. You can buy all kinds of different foods. Whereas, let's say, a cheese shop has a very high cohesion. It does only one thing, cheese. So if you want something else, well, you have to go somewhere else. But it does that one thing really well. And that concept, you can also apply it to writing software. So instead of having, let's say, a class or function that is 2,000 lines of code and does all kinds of different things. You can also try to split things up more. And the advantage of splitting up things is that those pieces, those bits that you create, they're easier to reuse and easier to change because they're much easier to understand. That's basically what cohesion is about. And then the other thing, that's coupling, and that's more about how dependent are different pieces of code on each other. So if you change something in one piece of code, do you also need to update 10 different files after that in order to accommodate those changes? If you have a piece of software with high coupling, then that's problematic, because every time you make one little change, you have to change things everywhere around in your code. If you have low coupling, it means you can basically treat your application as separate pieces that do communicate in some way, but those pieces, you can modify them without affecting the rest of the code too much. So those two things, they're really important in creating applications that are more complicated. And they can already help you even if you write a smaller script, because even if you, let's say you're doing some kind of machine learning project and you're writing a Python script, even if you already split out things a bit more and think a bit about the design of how you set things up, it's going to be easier to understand for you, for your colleagues, if you want to share it. And your code is basically going to be easier for you to maintain also afterwards. So developing that skill can really help you work faster, which is, of course, great news if you're trying to develop yourself in a tech career. So what I want to do is I want to show you a few examples of how this works. So I'm going to switch to my code editor. I made the font really large, so I hope you can actually see this. What I did here is I have a simple script that I wrote myself. And what it does, I'll just show you very quickly what it does. There is basically a player class. So this is like a small game. So a player has a name, strength, dexterity, intelligence, a couple of other traits. Basically, a player has a current health level, experience level. A player might have an inventory of items that a player collects. You can expand this class more if you want to. And then there is a very simple main function. So this is all in Python that creates a player, Geralt, and that assigns a few of these traits to that player. And for that, I'm using a little trick. This is a nice function, actually, that allows you to distribute traits over a total. So this is often the case for game characters. If you want to have, let's say, you have a total number of you have a total number of points, let's say 100 points, right? And you want to distribute it so that the total is 100, but it can't surpass it. So let's say a character that has very high strength, well, probably doesn't have a lot of intelligence. Well, I'm a bit thinking in stereotypes now, but you get the idea. But here, actually, the point is that if you look at the player class in terms of cohesion, there's actually lots of things here in the player class. And that can be problematic because it means that if we want to do something else now, let's say we want to have a game enemy class, we're going to have to copy over a lot of this code if we want that enemy also to have a strength and a wisdom and charisma, etc., etc. So what you can do in order to solve this is basically try to increase the cohesion by separating things a bit more. So, for example, what you can do here is not have one huge player class, but instead you could create, let's say, a class called, I have to put like this class called character traits, right? And then character traits, that's going to have basically anything that's related to the trait of a particular character. So I'm moving this from the player class to the character traits class, and I can give them like default values like so in Python. Let's just do that quickly. Now, instead of player having all of these things separately inside its own class, we can add here something called trait, and that's character traits. And then we need to initialize this in some way. I'll come back to that later. So because we did the split here, because player now has traits, it means it's now also very easy to, let's say, create a class enemy, and then enemy can also have traits, and we don't have to copy over all these implementation details anymore. And that's a big advantage of using code that has high cohesion, where things are well separated. And in order to complete this example, so what you can do, you also need to initialize the traits somewhere. So we could add a function here. Let's say we want to do it randomly. So we have role traits, and that's going to give us character traits. And what that will do is return a character traits object, and that gets the data that we had here in the beginning of the example. So I'll just move that over here, like so. And then I can put this function in the player class, like so. So now we have an example where the traits are separated from the player, and that makes the code a lot easier to manage. So that's one example that I wanted to show you. That's about cohesion. Another example I have is about coupling. So I'll just close this. There we go. So coupling means that things are more or less dependent on each other. And this is also a very important aspect of software design, where you need to make sure that if you do separate your code in various ways by lowering cohesion and trying to separate things better, then it's also important to make sure that those things can actually be changed independently. Now, if you look at this particular example, this is I'll just scroll down a bit. This is an example where we have a function that creates an order. So you can imagine this is like a web shop, and then there is a payment method that's being selected. Then there is an authorization method, like Google Authenticator or authorization via SMS, and then the payment processor pays that particular order, and then the client can pay the order. That's the whole idea. And let me run this just to show you what's happening here. So if you run this, basically you enter how you would like to pay this order. So let's say I enter credit card, and then I choose an authentication method like Google. And then I'm getting an authorization code. Normally, of course, this would be on your phone. This is just a mock-up of how it could work. So I provide the code, and then it's processing the credit payment for that particular amount. So very simple. And I can run it again, and then I can choose something else like PayPal, and I can do SMS, and then I put in the SMS code, and it also processes the payment. Now, the way that the code is set up is, if I scroll up, is you see that we have a function for creating an order and adding a few items to the order. Then we have a function for reading the authorizer that you want. So do you want Google or SMS? And we also have a function that reads how you would like to pay: credit, debit, and PayPal. Now, these two functions right here are very good examples of highly coupled code. Because as you can see, when you read the choice, this function needs to know about credit, debit, and PayPal payment processors. And you also see that here, it returns an object: credit payment, debit payment, PayPal processor. And the same thing for the authorization. So depending on the choice you make here, you return a different function in this case. So that means if you want to change this code, it's actually pretty hard, because, well, you have to put it in here. If you want to add, let's say, another payment, let's say you want to add Stripe, so you need to add another else here to this if statement to return a Stripe payment processor. You have to not forget to put it in here. So it's kind of cumbersome. And that's what coupling means. It means that a function like this, or a class, is highly dependent on implementation details. And because of that, it's harder to change. So another way to do it is, instead of having this very complicated if-else statement, you can use other mechanisms to try to separate this a bit more. And here I made an example. I won't code this one out, because I think that's going to take a bit too much time. But here I did it slightly differently. where basically at the top of the file, so it's actually a minor change. At the top of the file, I have a constant that maps a name to a particular payment processor. So this is a Python dictionary. And in the function that reads the payment choice, I use that dictionary to get the information that I need. So how would you like to pay? And the options that I provide, well, those are the keys of that dictionary. So that's going to give me credit, debit, and PayPal. And the same thing, let me scroll back up, the same thing for the authorizer. So instead of having an if-else statement going through all the options, no, I just use the information that I have in my dictionary. And now if I want to change one thing in my code, I can basically go up here and I can add the information here. So if I want to add Stripe, I add here another line called, let's say, Stripe, and then Stripe payment processor. And then because these functions, read payment choice, is not directly coupled anymore to specific payment processors, I don't need to change this anymore. And that means maintaining the code is going to be a bit easier. Now, this is a pretty basic example. Obviously, the more complex your code becomes, let's say the more important it becomes to do these things, because the impact is going to be bigger. And every time you add complexity to your code, if you keep on doing this, if you keep being aware of dealing with coupling and cohesion in this way, this is going to help you keep your code relatively simple, which in the end is going to help you write code faster. So this is what I want to share with you today. There's of course many other design principles, cohesion and coupling. They're just two of them. I cover a lot of them on my YouTube channel. I put out a video there every week. So if you want to watch those videos, the link is down below. What I also have is a free design guide. So if you want to learn a bit more about the steps I take to design a new piece of software from scratch and what you need to think about, if you go to this link, you can put in your email address and you get this design guide from me by email. So thank you very much for your time. You must also be anxious to get into the networking event, so I won't take up any more of your time. If you have any question, feel free to let me know.
Hi. There is one question. It's just coming up here right now. Thank you so much for your talk. It was great. Let me just wait for the question. So, hey Arjun, big fan of your channel. Do you have any general tips for improving one's recognition of where design patterns can be useful to increase cohesion and reduce coupling, or does it mostly come down to developing a practiced eye?
Thanks, Jordan. That's actually a very good question. A big part of this is let's say, code diagnosis. So you have to make sure you understand the problem in the code before you start modifying things. There are lists of these things, that you can watch out for. They're called code smells. I did a couple of videos about that also on the channel. But let's say there's a few examples of code smells, of, let's say, issues in the code that you can recognize are things like if you have a very long function, right? That probably means that you put way too many lines of code in that function and that it's trying to do too many things. Another example of something that can help you identify a problem in the code is if you have very complicated if-else logic. So if this, then that, else that, etc., and highly nested code like that, that also often points to an issue with the complexity of the logic, and you can probably separate out things a bit more and make them a bit simpler. And there are other things as well. For example, if you want to look more at issues with coupling, if, for example, you have a function that calls an object that has another object that you call, that you then call a function on that object again that you do something else with, so you get this whole chain of things. That's also an example of where you probably have dealing where you probably have an issue with coupling, because then every part in that chain where there's a potential change, it means you're going to have to update your function. So those are some examples of things that you can look at. And of course, as you said, it is practice. If you do more development, you learn those things, you see them more quickly. Doing code reviews of other people's code can actually help you also in understanding that.
We also have another question from John. Do you think inheritance is a good way to apply cohesion, or do you advise caution with it?
Yeah, inheritance, that's on the one part, it can be dangerous because actually what happens with inheritance, if you have a class and you create a subclass of that class that does something else, you're actually adding complexity. You're not simplifying things. And that's why if you look at the classic software design books, like the design patterns book, is that inheritance is used very carefully. It's mainly used to define an interface between things. So you have your superclass that can be abstract, or in some languages even support an interface like C# that defines what some kind of object exposes to you, and then you use that. And then if you rely on that interface and not directly on the object, you reduce coupling. So inheritance, and especially if you use it carefully, is very good for reducing coupling. In general, inheritance leads to lower cohesion because you're adding complexity to a class instead of simplifying it.
Thank you so much for answering your questions, and thank you for talking to us as well. It was great having you. And so this is the end of our virtual summit, day 1. Really enjoyed everyone's questions and insights. Very good that everyone was participating. Tomorrow we'll have other people talking, and I hope to see everyone here again. And now we're also going to be doing a network session. In the network area, we randomly match each attendee with another attendee, and you can have a one-to-one video chat for 3 minutes if you want. It will be like a fun experience to meet other people and talk about what you learned today. And also, if you want to learn more about the organizers, Robert is going to leave our links in the comment section. And thank you for our speakers today and everyone that came. And see you tomorrow at 4 at the same time with a great lineup of speakers.